I definitely did not think we were going to land on a series like this so early in the channel's life, but the wheel has spoken. The Dark Souls series has 4 games in it at the time of this recording, with an estimated completion time of 300 hours for its 159 total trophies. This week we're going to tackle Demon Souls, but not the gross janky original one. Instead, we'll be playing the PS5 launch title remake, which has an estimated time of 40 hours on PSNProfiles and 37 trophies for us to hunt. Let's get into it. This is the only game in the Souls series that I've platinumed in the past, but not since it released nearly 6 years ago, so my familiarity with the game is limited. We'll be using the Royalty class for our playthrough, seeing as magic in this game is very good and allows for you to keep your distance in some of the tough boss fights. Also, it's important that we pick the Providential Ring starting gift to make the King of Rings trophy a bit easier. Rieg is once again reborn as we enter the tutorial area, and I spent some time getting my bearings before pressing forward. The most recent From Software game I played was Elden Ring, and this game immediately feels pretty significantly worse than that, so it's going to take me a bit to get used to this. We smack around some fodder enemies and make our way to the first boss of the game. This is my opportunity to show you guys that just because I've played many games on this channel on easier difficulties does not mean that I am not a true gamer. Behold my true power. I am unstoppable. I am dead. We wake up in the Nexus, which will serve as our hub. There's this guy who will hold stuff for you, and then there's this guy who can upgrade weapons and repair stuff. We can't do much here yet, so we head into our first real level, the Gates of Boletaria. I immediately get humbled by the initial enemies because their delay and attacks are super off-putting, but we make our way up through the level with relative ease. Unlike future Souls games, the Archstone you spawn at is the only spawn point you get for the level, so if you die, you go all the way back to it. Luckily, these games have pretty impressive level design, so you can find shortcuts that lead back to these Archstones so you don't have to redo the entire level if you do die. There are some levels that don't have any shortcuts though, and they're just brutal. On our way down to the first shortcut, we cut these 2 chains and then make our way to this gate. We snag another ring off this corpse, and then on one of the bodies we cut down a minute ago, we grab the Jade Ornament, which will be important later. Pressing on, we run into an NPC named Ostrava, and grab this thief ring right next to him, before aiding him in this sticky situation he's gotten himself stuck in. Is what I would usually do, but unfortunately you don't need anything from Ostrava's questline, so since I feel weird about killing him, I'll let the enemies have him. Oh shit, he cleared them. I guess I'll have to take care of this myself. So the reason I'm doing this is that if we kill him now, we get the mausoleum key that we would get from his questline, so this just saves a lot of headache from ensuring he stays alive throughout said questline. As we continue exploring, we come across this creepy looking dude who sells stuff, but nothing we need, so we continue on until eventually finding another lever that opens the gate to the boss back where we started. We head down this large tower and go in to fight the Phalanx. I have no idea how to pronounce that correctly, and that'll be a common theme in this game. This guy's a bit of a pain because he has approximately 5 billion ads surrounding him that prevent him from taking damage. I chuck all my fire bombs I've accumulated at him and try to create some gaps so I can get in and poke him a bunch until he goes down. Defeating him pops a trophy, and so far we are deathless. I thought this game was supposed to be hard. Back in the Nexus, we faced our most terrifying creature so far, a woman. She tells us to go talk to the Monumental, and luckily I remembered where he is because the placement of this guy makes no sense at all. After speaking to him, we now have access to every other Archstone and can proceed in any order we want. Before we do that, we level up with the lady from before and then jump off this cliff in the Nexus so we go back to soul form. Every time you beat a boss, you become human again, and if you die as a human inside of a level, it lowers that Archstone's world tendency. World tendencies are a really interesting mechanic that work completely in the background of this game. There's pure white, which is good, neutral, and pure black, which is bad. Dying as a human in a world pushes it towards black. We'll have to have certain worlds at pure white and pure black for item spawns, NPC spawns, and other stuff as we progress the game. The reason I chose to head into the 4th Archstone right now is to snag a weapon that's very good in the early game called the Crescent Falchion. This world unfortunately has one of the most annoying enemy types in the game, however, so getting to this weapon is still not an easy thing to do. We eventually do kill all the roly-polies and head through here and run past this red-eyed skeleton to snag the weapon and head back to the Nexus. Now we head into the second area of the first Archstone called the Lord's Path. This level is absurdly linear. As we step outside, we almost get torched by a dragon and then run to the first tower and head underground. We get jumped by a bunch of angry doggos and run into the creepy merchant guy again. I remember this lower area being important in the past, but I think it's just from Ostrava's questline, which we skipped, thankfully. As we continue down the rampant dragon's path, we fight a couple of blue-eyed knights and then step into the arena for our boss fight with the Tower Knight. The Tower Knight is insanely easy, but there are a bunch of archers around the arena that are very irritating. Unfortunately, we can't kill those archers because it'll void a trophy. So we just roll around and attack the boss's ankles until he falls down and crushes me. We climb out from under him and attack his head, which does insane damage, and he goes down, popping the boss trophy and the No Archers Killed trophy. Back into the Nexus, we die again and return to soul form and then head to the second Archstone. In this desert-themed area, we immediately get clocked by this guy throwing rocks at us, even though we were a mile away from where it landed, and as we make our way through, we kill all of these miner guys because they can drop upgrade materials for us. As I read this line in the script, I realize that I never use any of these upgrade materials in the entire playthrough, so do with that what you will. Some doggos come busting through these pots, and we run into our first fat official of the game. No, seriously, they're called fat officials. We need a full armor set from these guys and a gold coin drop, which is insanely rare. More on that later. We pull a lever to open up a gate and make our way to another fat official who claps my cheek, so we reset and head through the gate we opened before. Our goal in this new area is to drain lava out of a specific area to progress. We fight some fire lizards and more rabid pups and make it to this lever to drain the lava and head down to snag a ring off this corpse. Then we head up on this giant elevator that brings us down into the armor spider boss fight. This fight isn't too difficult as he only has a couple of attacks, but if you get knocked off to the side, you get slowed by the webs, which can suck. He also does this oil attack where he forces you to the back of the arena, which just slows everything down for literally no reason. We take him down with no deaths and pop a trophy. Heading back to the Nexus to level, we will now not be jumping off and dying here anymore. We'll be doing it in World 2 for the time being to bring that world tendency down to pure black. Once we do that, we head to the start of the second area of this archstone, but before we actually go fight the boss, we head over here past these exploding mine carts to this fat official in the corner and begin to farm him for the gold coin drop. This is one of two really awful grinds in this game, otherwise it's basically non-stop action. I ended up having to fight this guy for 2 hours. That's not as bad as some people's experience, but along the way I was obviously entertaining myself with second monitor content and ended up losing thousands of souls in the process, so that sucks for sure. We finally get the gold coin drop and celebrate our ability to continue playing the game. We go down this other tunnel now and make it to the scaffolding where we grab a ring off this corpse and then carefully fall down to the bottom where we're attacked by these rock worms that die very easily. As we make our way out of the shaft, we hang a left and grab the Hands of God weapons for a trophy later. The boss fight here is Flame Harambe. My first attempt on this guy was going super well, and honestly his moveset is really simple. Sadly I choked the first attempt after almost beating him, but we make our way back down and get him on the second attempt. Beating him pops a trophy and we head back to the Nexus, then continue on to the third area, which is just a boss fight. Most of the third areas in this game are exclusively a boss fight, and this one is the Dragon God. While this guy seems massively intimidating, he's just a giant gimmick fight. His giant fists are very annoying, and while there are certain places you can safely stand, I couldn't find them to save my life. Welcome! Punch! He killed me many times, but eventually we make it through to this ballista and chunk off some of his health. We then make it to the second ballista with no issues, and once you do this, he's incapacitated. There's a ring over here on this corpse, and then we whittle down his health as much as we can before equipping the Hands of God weapons to finish him off. It takes a minute because my mage character does no damage with these, but once he goes down, we pop the trophy for killing him with the Hands of God, and then this one for just beating him right after. We head back to the Nexus to level and then use this cliff to fall off before heading back to the first archstone to tackle the third area for it. This is the only archstone that the third area is actually a full level. We start off by fighting some dogs and dodging some balls before making our way through this tiny alleyway. The enemies here are a bit tanky, so I play slow and fight this sneaky assassin guy until tricking a couple more of them into getting hit with this flame ball. Once we head up those stairs, we meet a red-eyed knight that does big damage but goes down pretty easily, and then step out onto this balcony to try and bait over this fat official. He is the tankiest motherfucker I've ever seen with a swing for the ages that one-shots me. Rushing to make it back to my souls, I of course die. What an incredible video game this is turning out to be. Rest in peace, 10,000 souls. Once we make it back to that guy and kill him, he drops these keys we'll need in a bit, and eventually reach the shortcut of the level where another fat official lies. With him down, we snag the last piece of official's gear and head to use the keys we got on the door just before the Tower Knight boss. Down in this dungeon area, we run into another fat official, and killing him gives us another key we'll need in a bit. While we're down here, we unlock this door to save Bior. We then head into this little side passage and equip all of our official's gear to enter this big tower where at the top, this fat official thinks we're also a fat official, so I kill him to save this witch named Yuria, which pops a trophy. Heading back through the shortcut we opened earlier, we approach the boss door, and on our way we slowly bait these 3 red-eyed knights down, which works perfectly, and head into the boss arena. This guy is called the Penetrator.
Daddy, chill.
Since we saved Bior earlier, he will help us in this fight, and good God does he help us. He does insane damage here, so very worth rescuing him. Once the Penetrator gets penetrated, we pop the Brothers in Arms trophy for having Bior help us, and the Penetrator trophy. Now head on down and penetrate that like button, would ya? As we head back to the Nexus, I'm looking for Yuria, the witch we saved, and can't find her anywhere, which is where I learned that if you talk to her with the official's gear on, she thinks you're one of them and won't go back to the Nexus. So we make our way back and kill Homie again to talk to her without that gear on, and then she appears back in the Nexus. We snag the Firestorm spell off of her, which is an insanely powerful spell, and then make our way to the third Archstone. The Prison of Hope is the level I have the most PTSD from in this game. The first time I played this, I got lost in here for hours. It was miserable. Luckily, now I know what I'm doing, so this should be pretty straightforward. This area has these squiggly guys though that can stun you and suck the shit out of you, so be careful around them. We snag our first set of keys and then make our way back to the door near the archstone to proceed. After running around opening jail cells forever, we hop into this one for the Ring of Magical Sharpness. As we head down to the basement, I keep making my way around opening cells and killing this big ball dude and then get jump scared by a hole in the ground. After running all the way back, we head outside and go for another miscellaneous trophy to deactivate this statue by rolling across this brick. God, the run back in this area is so ass. Back at the bridge again, we make it across safely, which pops the time for rolling trophy and also pushes us to trophy level 175. Big W's for the squad. As we make our way up this staircase, we get shot at by some invisible person, and as we approach, a black phantom is revealed, and we trash them as they try to crush their crossbow a bit too hard. Heading up this long spiral staircase brings us to an unnecessarily long path that leads to this dude performing an incantation, so we kill him obviously and snag this key. This key unlocks the cell for Sage Freak, which is right over here, like I said, so we pop this open and talk to him to pop a trophy. Now we can go fight the boss for this area finally. The boss is this lady who, when you go up and smack her, she creates clones. We need to not attack any clones for a trophy, and the easiest way to tell is to lock onto them and see if they have a health bar. If they do, they're a clone. We repeat this strategy a few times, and she goes down popping the Fool's Idol trophy and the Never Fooled trophy. We're then carried by some gargoyles up to the next area, so we teleport back to the Nexus, grab the Soul Ray magic, cliff dive in World 2, and head back to move forward. Our goal in this world is to destroy 2 chains to reach the boss room. The Soul Ray spell we just got will 3-shot these gargoyles and 2-shot them with the Ring of Magical Sharpness on. As we reach the first tower, we ascend up, avoiding all the stupid traps FromSoft created for this area as we reach the top and kill all these fodder dudes, which breaks the chain. Now we head over this way and don't drop down here, but there's an NPC over there that we'll be visiting in our second playthrough. We instead hop into this cage and head down to this blood swamp. This area is fucking disgusting. There are these weird creepy crawly face dudes and even bigger, grosser versions of them. We run around the area collecting stuff and then make our way through this fog gate. Running up these stairs, we run into a red phantom version of the squiggly alien dudes from the last level. Luckily, he won't be any hard. Jesus, dude, the run. We make it back to him and get a backstab on him, which helps us to finish him off quicker. Then, as we make it up top, we fight more human-faced nightmare fuel before eventually reaching the second chain and breaking it. Now, before we head to the boss, we head all the way down here to the base of this heart we just killed or seriously damaged and find this gold mask, which is important, and the Ring of Avarice. As we make our way up to the boss fight, we run into another red squiggly on the staircase, but I just backstab him and Sparta kick him to the depths of hell. At the top, we head into the fog gate for the boss fight against the Man-Eater. This fight also gave me issues in the past, but thanks to the power of current guides, I know that the Firestorm spell we got can literally one-shot this guy.
Now that's a lot of damage!
Once one is down to half, another one spawns, and this one I couldn't get quite into a good position for a Firestorm, so we finish him off with a Soul Ray and pop a trophy. We cliff dive in World 2 again and head back for the third Archstone's final boss. First, we ascend this long staircase and run into the most unnecessary red squiggly in existence, but don't worry, once you finally get him down, there's another one right after.
Bruh.
This boss is called the Old Monk, and he's probably the easiest boss in the game. Back up the stairs we go when we get invaded by the infamous Casual Gamer XL021. When you get invaded in this area, the Old Monk boss becomes that invader instead. So my boss fight is now Casual Gamer XL021. Luckily, he is absolutely a casual gamer and gets fucking rolled, which pops the Old Monk trophy and sets this world at pure white tendency. We go cliff dive again in World 2, so that it is now pure black world tendency, and then head back to the first chain tower in the second level of World 3 to grab this key for a cell in the Prison of Hope. You can only get this key with pure white world tendency. With that key in hand, we head back to this area to unlock a cell, but I'm horrendously impatient and get sucky-suckied by one of the squiggly dudes and have to do the run back again. This world is my purgatory. Once we reach the cell and let this guy named Rydell out, we don't get a trophy, but we do get a ring, so definitely worth. Now we just have to head back to the Archstone and... World 4 is our next stop, where we return to the land of the roly-polies for some good old-fashioned revenge. As we approach this first big gate from earlier, we make sure to snag this talisman of God from this corpse and then head inside to explore a bit. Making our way over the rafters and underground, we free this guy from this cell, which the guy didn't tell me to do, so hopefully that's fine, and then make our way back out into the main courtyard for a rematch with the dude that killed us in the tutorial. Luckily for us, he's weak to Firestorm and gets melted. Pressing on, we fight our first red-eyed Skeleman with dual katanas where the camera almost fucks me, and then we make our way alongside the cliff until we reach the fog gate. A sharp left turn and some more jogging later, we snag the Regenerator's ring from this corpse and backtrack up to this beam that I land on my first try most definitely and snag the Grave Robber's ring. Now we just head forward and fight another red-eyed skeleton before entering the fog gate for our boss fight, the Adjudicator. I don't know how to say that word. For the extra trophy here, we have to beat him without knocking him down, which is the main gimmick for melee characters, but since we have Soul Ray, we can just stand up here and snipe him a bunch until he goes down, popping the boss trophy and the One Shall Stand trophy. We head back to the Nexus and start to cliff dive in the third Archstone to bring that world to pure black as well. The next step is to farm out a pure Bladestone from that skeleton we killed before this boss fight, and this grind is infamously long, often taking players several hours. It's so bad, in fact, that the ring you get for trading the pure Bladestone is purchasable by buying the deluxe edition of the game for $90. I really don't want to do that, so I choose the path of most resistance and farm this out. I had to kill this guy for what felt like... Oh shit! I only had to kill him 3 times! That is the luckiest I think I've ever been in any game ever. I remember that grind being so bad in the past that I actually considered just forking out the money for it. And I think I ended up even just trading it with a friend via duplication or something, I don't know, but there you have it, the world's luckiest pure Bladestone. Pressing on into the second area, we first head down and fight this Grim Reaper dude, which stops the infinitely spawning enemies in the area. Then head back here and talk to Patches, who tells us there's treasure in this pit, so we stand here and he falcon kicks us down to this basement where we fight this Black Phantom and rescue Saint Urbane, which grants us the Umbasa trophy. We confront Patches and he gives us a ring we need, so we forgive him for now and continue on with the level. This next area goes flawlessly for me. These cliffs can be such a pain because there's a bunch of enemies that try to bait you into rolling off, but not me, no sir. Once we make it inside again, there's more of the dudes spawning from another Grim Reaper, and they keep trying to Spartan laser me, but we keep rolling past them until we find the Grim Reaper and he insta-kills us. Hooray! The following sequence of events should be studied in a lab. I may be the worst player on the planet at replicating something I was just able to do. We fall off the nearby cliff right after and die. Then die again to the skeletons themselves. We try to back up and heal at one point and get sniped by the local flying manta rays. Die again to the skeletons, trying to be extra careful not to fall off the cliff. Then fall off the cliff again before finally making it back to that Reaper and firestorming him. We press on to this area with a bunch of slugs to grab the Ronin ring from a side passage while almost getting exploded by this little white ball flying around. It's insane how many things are deadly in this game. Like, I understand that's the point, but literally everything is out to kill you. We finally make it to the boss room to fight the old hero who is blind, so you want to carefully walk around and try to sneak up and firestorm him, but I'm too nervous to get close because I don't want to die and have to run all the way back, so instead I just fail and die anyway. We run along the cliff, firestorm the Reaper, run through the slug room, and make it back to the old hero and successfully firestorm him and finish him off to pop the old hero trophy. We cliff dive in World 3 and head back to fight the final boss for World 4. This is the Storm King, and he's a giant manta ray in the sky, but luckily there's an easy way to beat him. We grab this gimmick weapon that hits things in the sky and just run around the area slicing it to eventually take him down and pop the Storm King trophy. Back to World 3, we cliff dive and use some Stones of Ephemeral Eyes to get human form back and cliff dive some more until it becomes pure black world tendency. We now make our way down to the Blood Swamp where we can find a primeval demon for a colorless soul, and then while looking for the ring we need, I die to this big meatball and we have to run all the way back. The annoying thing with this area is that there has to be a shortcut down here to the swamp, and I'm just too lazy to find it. Eventually we snag the ring, firestorm the meatball for revenge, and then Nexial binding back to the Nexus because I'm lazy. Finally we can do the 5th Archstone now, which is my least favorite by a country mile. This first area, the Depraved Chasm, is the worst because the enemies are annoying and can easily make you fall off. Add that in with my unbelievably low skill, and rolling off the edge can happen extremely easily. There are a number of areas where you can climb down a ladder or drop down and just get ambushed by enemies waiting at the bottom, which is so trash. We eventually run into this giant version of the other enemies and magic him to death so I don't have to learn his moves, which surely won't be an issue later. Spoilers, it is. This world is also infamous for poisoning you in a million different ways, so that's fun. I'm sorry to be such a negative Nancy, this area just sucks. Once we reach the boss room, we head inside to fight the Leechmonger, who aggressively tries to throw leeches on us to slow us down, but we just run right up next to him and firestorm to insta-kill him and pop a trophy. The bosses in this game really aren't quite the difficult part, it's more leading up to them than also the runbacks if you do die. Now we missed a ring in this area, so after cliff diving in the Nexus, we head back in and find the Ring of Magical Dullness and just roll off here to save time. Heading into the second area of this world, we equip the Sodden Ring we got a bit ago so we can move fast in the water. This level has you wading through shit water, which poisons you if you're in it for too long. If it weren't for the fact that we have to go way out here to get a ring, we honestly could have probably avoided the poison. We snag the ring here and kill the Black Phantom just barely and press on. As we make our way through the first fog gate and fight some bees, we reach this area where there are 2 of the giant dudes and they're much tankier in this level than the previous one, and I can't learn how to dodge forward instead of backwards, so this dude wrecks me. This run back made me want to put hot sauce on my eyeballs, but we make it back and kill those dudes and press on to this little village of bird guys. This area isn't very difficult, just lots of jump scares from enemies that don't do too much damage. Now we make our way over to the shortcut for this level by running extremely carefully against this wall. I almost fell like 10 times on my way to this, but we get it done and head back to fight this level's boss, the Dirty Colossus. There was nothing super crazy about this boss, he goes down to Firestorm very easily. We pop a trophy and head back to the Nexus to level and cliff dive before heading into the final boss for World 5, Maiden Estrella. This boss just sits at the back of the arena not doing much, but we have to defeat her without killing this bodyguard that won't get out of the way. Once we make it past him, we just sprint down to the lady and take her down. I guess she can attack. With this knowledge, surely I'll dodge on my second attempt. This time for sure we get her down and pop the boss trophy and the May You Be Unharmed trophy. Now that this world has pure white world tendency, we can head backwards here over to this ladder to fight a bunch of these big dudes and grab this spear out of the ground, which pops the One of the Few trophy. Back in the first area of World 4, we talked to this guy who asked us to retrieve a sword for him, which is down in the basement of the area where Patches kicked us earlier. We return it to him and pop a trophy, and then he attacks us for some reason, so we kill him anyway. Next up is this trading mechanic with this weird crow in this tree where if you drop specific items, then save and exit the game and reload, he'll give you other items. We trade the pure Bladestone for that ring we automatically get with the deluxe edition, the gold coin for another ring, then the gold mask and talisman of God for 2 colorless demon souls. Now we can finally make our way through the last real level of this game, which is insanely difficult for me. In the first room, we have to fight 3 black phantoms, so I try and aggro one of them at a time, but fail and die. We eventually get the big dude separated so we can take on the archer on our own and proceed down this hallway to this really annoying tower with a red knight. After a few deaths, we clear this area and head to the top to make this dragon torch this fat official. Then as we run down the path, there's another one and I try and stop and kill it and get torched but just barely survive. The dragon kills him for me and we press on and unlock a shortcut and make our way up this giant staircase where Bior says he'll take on the dragon for us but literally can't hit him. As we approach the final elevator, there's yet another Black Phantom, so we take them down with ease and begin our ascent. It was at this point that I realized that after we beat this guy, I can't talk to the maid in black anymore without ending the game. So if I die and then don't get my souls back, I'll lose a ton of souls. And there's still quite a bit of stuff we need to do before ending this first playthrough. Luckily, I first try the final boss because I'm a true gamer. Okay, fine, it was probably like the 3rd attempt where I finally catch him with a good firestorm and finish him off. This pops the False King trophy. We take a quick detour to cliff dive in World 5 and then head back to an area we couldn't access earlier now that World 1 is pure white. Grabbing 2 rings here, we then head over to use the mausoleum key we got at the very beginning of the playthrough, which allows us to fight Old King Doran. You only have to get him down to about 75% health to be able to grab this Demon Branch sword, but we need to kill him for a ring, unfortunately. This fight sucks because he takes like no damage but one-shots me. It's not even that hard of a fight, but the run back is brutal. So, after getting very frustrated and tired, I decided to cheese it. Go feed the algorithm with your hatred, I feel nothing. The way we go about this is to get him outside this staircase with a backstab or something of the sort and then punch him all the way to this other tower, which takes quite a while. For some reason, once he gets past a certain point, he just won't attack you, so we just tickle him off this staircase and he dies to fall damage. We grab the ring we needed and head back to the Nexus. At this point, I grab every spell I can from Yuria and Freak and every miracle I can from Urbane. You need multiples of certain boss souls to get all the spells and miracles in the game, which is why we need to do 2 playthroughs. With that done, we trade the Jade Ornament to stockpile Thomas for the Ring of Herculean Strength, and then get all the worlds to pure black by jumping off a bunch of cliffs. I luckily had the exact number of ephemeral eye stones I needed to do so, and now we have to find a Black Phantom in each world to push our character tendency to pure white.
Surprise, motherfucker!
The first one is Meralda in World 1, and I was immediately shocked at how little damage I was doing. These fights were harder than a lot of boss fights in the game in my opinion. We take her down and head over to World 2 to fight Skirvir, I don't know how to say that name at all, who wasn't too bad, but he grazes me a few times as he spams his fire spells. Rydell is up next, yeah, the guy we set free earlier for a ring. Once again, the fight here may have not been too terrible, but the run back was awful and there's no space to fight him here. I tried to bring him all the way down to the aero bridge, but to turn the corner and get jump scared by this red squiggly, my worst nightmare, so Rydell catches me and kills me. Eventually I fight him in this area with these pillars and take him down and move on to World 4. The Black Phantom in World 4 is that guy who we gave the sword to, but he's way tankier this time and also attacks as soon as we spawn in. The worst part about this guy by far was that he heals when he gets below 50% health, and it didn't seem like there was a limit to how many times he could do that. Add in the fact that he can one-shot me, so I have to play pretty carefully, and this was awful. Eventually I get him really low, and then panic and use Firestorm, which actually works out, and he goes down. This last Black Phantom is in World 5, in the Poison Swamp of course, so we just sprint through and hope for the best. We reach Selen with no issues, and the fight is actually going super well until this big bug thing decides to start sucking me off. which stuns me for an eternity. Luckily, Selen has bad AI and doesn't kill me and instead just keeps trying to back up and heal herself, but we stay aggressive and take her down. Now we're at pure white character tendency and we can go snag the ally ring from the Monumental. After climbing all the way up the stairs, we talk to the Monumental and he won't give me the ring. I couldn't for the life of me figure out why this was happening, but it turns out there's a question he asks you at the beginning of the game, and if you answer no, then he won't give you the ring. I didn't answer no. As a matter of fact, I didn't answer at all. I just walked away before he asked the question. My impatience for dialogue has finally come back to bite me. Fortunately for us, character tendency transfers over to New Game Plus, so for now we go assist somebody in a boss fight for a trophy. I chose to wait outside the Flame Lurker's lair, and it didn't take long at all for someone to summon me. We take Harambe down and pop the Return to Form trophy. Now we can go talk to the Maiden in Black and head to the final area. The final boss is more or less a gimmick boss. I'm sure you can die, but in my opinion it's really difficult to do so. Once we take him down, we have the option to kill the Maiden and become Demon Lord, or we can leave her to lull the beast to sleep, so that's what we do to obtain the Maiden in Black's Demon Soul. After skipping cutscenes, we're immediately back to the Nexus before the first mission, so we head back into the Archstone. We need to kill the Phalanx again to be able to speak to the Monumental for our ring, and sadly I was exhausted at this point and the enemies were hitting like trucks. I can appreciate that I can't just steamroll New Game Plus, but honestly this felt way harder than the first playthrough. Eventually we do make it to the boss and firestorm him and slap him to death. Then we head up to the Monumental and talk to him, say yes, and get our allies ring. Now we just basically have to replay everything and not much changes outside of damage done to me. The Tower Knight was a bit easier because we can kill the archers. As we reach the first shortcut for the first level of the second Archstone, we hop on the elevator and head down. Apparently there's a blacksmith down here that can upgrade the weapon I've been using the entire game, so that was great to find at this point. We make our way to the armor spider and he kills me a million times, but this first death almost made me want to uninstall the game. With him down via Fire Surge, we go to take on the Flame Lurker and beat him on our first try. That felt great. Then we go deliver the Searing Demon Soul from this fight to the blacksmith I mentioned earlier. Doing so pops the Road to Possibilities trophy. We can then combine Demon Brant and Soul Brant to form the Northern Regalia, which pops the Legacy of the King's trophy. This sword looks sick, but I don't have the stats to use it. Its damage scales with character tendency, and since I'm pure white right now, I would imagine it fucks, but sadly I'll never know. At the start of the next play session, I decided to go for the Unwelcome Guest trophy for invading and killing another player. This game doesn't have tons of people in it these days, so I expected this to take a while. We load into our first duel with Ariel 500, and we go back and forth burning heals for a literal eternity until I get bored and give up and definitely don't just lose. Our second combatant is Black Hippie 5, and this one goes much more in my favor, so we just run him down and pop the trophy so we can move on. We run the Dragon God again, and then the dreaded Prison of Hope, where the false idol actually gave me quite a bit of trouble, which is the worst because of the run back. In 3-2, we head down here and free this guy from his cage just to kill him like I mentioned earlier, and then getting to the Man-Eaters actually goes very well, and taking them down only took me like 2 attempts. For 3-3, I kept getting invaded and trolled by players that were both better than me and also super lame and cheesy, so I raged out and set the game to offline mode to fight the generic old monk boss fight, and that was much smoother. In 4-1, I learned about this skip for the level that puts you right next to the boss, so it took me a while to get, but it was well worth it. The boss himself didn't die to magic, so I had to go down and slap this shard of metal in his belly to knock him over and take him out by hitting his head. In 4-2, we save Kurt Cobain again, and then honestly, once I get past the Grim Reaper hallways, this was insanely easy. The boss got obliterated by Firestorm. In 4-3, I kept dying to ads, but eventually take him down and go backwards a bit to 1-3 now. For this level, we have to do all the extra stuff again, so first we kill the fat officials and open the shortcut, then free Bior again, and head up to Uria to send her back to the Nexus once more. I attempted to run past everyone to the boss, and that didn't work out the first time, but the second time the Red Knights all got distracted by something, so I took the opportunity and ran past them. The Penetrator gets railed by Bior again, and we move on to World 5. The first level here was the beginning of a play session, and good God did it crush my spirits. I was getting super lazy at this point, and in this level that doesn't really work out so well. Eventually I do make it to the boss and take him down, and for 5-2 I just let myself get poisoned and sprinted all the way to the boss room through the water. This took a few tries, but it was much better than actually playing the level. The Dirty Colossus goes down, and we head into 5-3 and literally insta-kill the Seated Lady on the first try, and then we finally can buy all of our miracles. Before we do that, however, I upload my save to the cloud so that once the trophy pops, we can re-download it so that we keep all of our boss souls. If you don't want to do this, that's your prerogative, but I refuse to do another playthrough just for that. We pop the All Miracles trophy and then buy all of our spells from Uria and Freak and pop the All Spells trophy. Now we make our way through the final level of the game, which took me a million billion years. The reason for that wasn't necessarily the path to the boss, but the final boss himself. I actually had to learn a bit this time around. Not to mention this fucking elevator kept going back down by itself while I was messing with my inventory. I hadn't been this close to throwing my controller through a wall since trying to hit rank 50 in Lone Wolves in Halo 3. The False King goes down, and now we have to kill some NPCs to get pure black character tendency. Thank God this isn't as hard as doing pure white character tendency. First, we kill Saint Urbane and fight off his 2 lackeys while ensuring to grab this Ring of Devout Prayer off his corpse. With those 3 down, we kill Sage Freak and his apprentice, which was much easier because they're squishy mages. Our character tendency is now pure black, so reloading the area spawns my Fistful of D's, who asks us to kill certain NPCs. We already killed the first 2 missions just now, so Patches is up next. He has an annoying shield, but this one felt good since Patches is the worst. Now, typically she would tell us to kill Bior and Estrava next, but I guess they died in the overworld because it skips straight to Yuria, the last target. We go over and Uno reverse the Firestorm spell onto her, and then head back up to collect our final ring, which pops the King of Rings trophy. I can't enjoy my moment though because Homegirl attacks us. With her down, we proceed back to the ending again, and this time after the Slug King Allant is down, we kill the Maiden in Black, popping our final trophy, followed by the Platinum Trophy, Slayer of Trophies. It took me 17 hours, 46 minutes, and 33 seconds to platinum this game, and to be honest, it felt much longer than that. We earned 37 out of our 159 total trophies for the Souls series. Dark Souls is supposed to take 70 hours to platinum, and I'm here to challenge that theory. This is Plat The Series, and we're currently making our way through the Souls series. We've already completed Demon Souls, but unfortunately that's where my existing knowledge ends. With an 8 out of 10 difficulty and 41 trophies for us to hunt over the course of 3 playthroughs, can I blindly traverse the lands of Lordran and earn this platinum in under 70 hours? Let's find out. Like and subscribe if you enjoy my suffering. We're playing as the Sorcerer class in this game because just like Demon Souls, magic is pretty busted in this one. The starting gift we choose is the Master Key, and after quickly making a character that looks like me if I were also a potato, Riga's reborn for another adventure. After skipping the intro cutscene because I will never be able to understand the stories of these games, we awaken in a prison cell with the key inside of it. Not a very effective prison. We exit and kill a couple enemies and reach our first bonfire, which pops a trophy. Heading through this door, we nope past the boss that spawns and find a shield and dagger, then walk through this fog door. After opening a shortcut so we don't have to repeat those 10 seconds if we die, we walk up these stairs and expertly dodge this ball that I've seen approximately 10 million times watching this game in the past. In the hole created by the ball, we talk to this guy who gives us Estus flasks as well as a key, and we pop a trophy. We head upstairs and grab this catalyst so we can cast spells, and then walk through another fog door to fight our first boss, the Asylum Demon. Plunging down with our tiny dagger, we do big damage to him and then back away and spam magic missile at him until he goes down.
Magic missile! Magic missile! Magic missile! Magic missile!
Defeating him drops the Big Pilgrim's Key and a Humanity. We walk up this path for a cutscene where we're taken to Lordran and pop a trophy. This is Firelink Shrine, which serves as our hub for the game. We rest and talk to this guy who tells us there are 2 bells we have to ring if we want to become Dark Lord. I don't know if that's the actual goal here, but it is for me. After gathering some items, we talk to Petrus of Thorland, who gives us a copper coin in our first covenant, which pops a trophy. Now we can proceed onwards towards the next area, making our way up this hill and sniping this rat. This intro area isn't anything too crazy. We fight some undead soldiers and gather up some soul consumables we'll be duping later. A big dragon shows up and runs away like a little bitch, and we find a merchant to purchase 999 wooden arrows. We now use the dupe glitch on all of our consumable souls to level up and have a bunch of humanity. I recognize that this means I'm a little bitch boy, but I'm trying to go fast here. Also, Dark Souls 2 and 3 don't have anything like this, so karma comes quickly. Humanities are used for getting human form back and also kindling bonfires, which allows you to have double Estus flasks. Also, while I was following the guide for the dupe glitch, I moved my timer out of the way and made it glitch out for a bit, so that was cool. Now we go back to the merchant to buy some stuff and proceed along killing regular enemies until making our way down here where we bait and kill this Black Knight to get a Titanite chunk and the blue Tearstone ring. We successfully dodge a flaming barrel and head into our next boss fight. First we climb up this ladder and kill these dudes so they don't troll us, and then we spawn the Taurus demon and immediately note backwards so we can climb up here and poke him in the face. Then we just finish him off very easily and continue on. We get a homeward bone that teleports us back to a bonfire and another humanity, then meet this guy named Solaire who gives us a white sign soapstone for multiplayer summoning. Then, while crossing this bridge, we hear a dragon and try to double back but get toasted, and then run over here to go under the bridge and poke its tail with arrows forever until it breaks, granting us the Drake Sword. This is 1 out of 48 weapons we need for this trophy. We then bait the dragon to attack again to kill all the enemies, and then step out and try to run past him, and he insta-kills me. Whoops. So apparently you're supposed to just stand here for a bit and he'll jump down and then you can run past him. We go pray at this statue to pop another Covenant trophy called Warrior of Sunlight, which also gives us a miracle called the Lightning Spear. Heading to the next area, we go up this tower and fail to backstab this Black Knight, so we de-aggro and nail him on the second try. Approaching this archway, there's a giant boar we can do something similar for, as when he charges all the way up here, he will just give up and start walking back so we can blast him and move forward. We grab this mystery key in the corner of the next area and run into our first Balder Knight who can parry attacks but doesn't for me for some reason, I don't know why.
Magic missile.
A bit later, we head inside this big area and there's this giant guy that freaks me out, so I try to run away and de-aggro him, but it doesn't work, so I just magic missile him to death. Before continuing that way, we head the opposite direction to this area with a bonfire and run across this huge bridge to meet Sigmire of Katarina. He's a big old quirky guy that we must protect at all costs because I love him. Once we've exhausted his dialogue, we dupe some more souls and go to buy some stuff from a blacksmith downstairs and also upgrade our weapons and armor. Back where the giant Black Knight guy was, we find a shortcut to Firelink Shrine and buy some miracles from Petrus as well as a talisman. After attuning some of the new stuff we got, we use the Firekeeper soul that was by the big Knight guy to upgrade our Estus to +1. Returning to the chapel, we fight a bunch of hollows in this doorway and go free this guy from the cell with the mystery key we looted earlier, and then we kill him. He drops the Ring of Favor and Protection, which is a really good ring that breaks if you take it off, so just don't do that. Now we can finally head up to fight the first real boss of the game, the Bell Gargoyle. Before entering the door, we summon Solaire to help us, which is sabitch, I know, but we need sunlight metals and beating bosses with Solaire is the easiest way to do so. At the start of this fight, we get behind the gargoyle and smack his tail to get the gargoyle tail axe, which is a missable unique weapon. Obviously we're doing insane damage here thanks to soul duping, so once we get the boss down to half, a second one spawns, but it honestly doesn't even matter. They both go down, and as a frame of reference, this boss fight is what made me rage quit this game when it first released back in 2011. So everything from this point on is blind. We ring the first bell after beating those guys, which pops a trophy, and then we meet Oswald of Kareem and buy stuff from him before returning to Firelink. We soul dupe and level some more, and then head down this elevator to the New Londo ruins before heading to the next story area. Here we pick up an item called a Transient Curse, which allows us to damage ghosts. We run up over here and slice the spirits to head on the skinny beam to grab another Firekeeper soul to upgrade our Estus to +2. Now we head all the way back to the area where we first met Solaire to continue forward. Through this door and down below, we make our way into a new area of the Undead Burg with demon puppies and extremely annoying assassin enemies. After we clear out the enemies, we rescue this guy named Griggs from this little room here and send him back to Firelink. Now we collect some stuff and head into another boss fight with the Capra Demon. I really don't understand why the devs made the arena for this fight so incredibly small, not to mention having dogs attack you as well. Ultimately though, this guy is nothing special, we just dodge and smack him until he goes down, dropping the key to the depths. Using that key to proceed into the depths, we fight a bunch of hollows and doggos and then get attacked by this giant butcher guy, but luckily magic keeps him from shitting on us. In this chest by him is a large ember which we'll need later. Passing by this area, we help Laurentius of the Great Swamp out of this barrel he's trapped in and find a shortcut back to Firelink through the initial waterway with the rat in it from earlier. The wraparounds back to Firelink in this game impressed me so much. Demon Souls didn't have as much of that as I thought it would, but this game has me opening doors and being shook like all the time. Talking to Griggs now at Firelink, we buy a bunch of sorceries, and Laurentius also teleported here and we buy pyromancies from him. We attune some of our new magic and head back to that shortcut, stopping at this undead merchant to buy a bunch of stuff and continue on to the area with the butcher from before. The next area is this hallway filled with slimes we can kill very easily with magic, then open this door with the master key to unlock another bonfire. Backtracking just a hair to where the first butcher was, we drop down and snipe this giant rat and then drop down and explore a bit. There's a new enemy type here called the Basilisk, which is extremely dangerous because they can stone you Medusa style. We need to farm these enemies to get 7 Eyes of Death to drop, and while doing so, we fight this Dark Knight spirit Kirk, who I guess only spawns because I'm a human. Insert super hilarious Star Trek joke here. Before we head to the boss, we stop by this guy to buy 3 gold pine resins and equip them as we summon Solaire once more and head into the next boss fight. This fight is with the Gaping Dragon. I would imagine he is called that because of his gaping asshole of a mouth. We need to slice his tail off for another special weapon, and luckily Solaire distracts him for us to do that, but unfortunately I'm unable to finish the boss off before Solaire dies, so we miss out on another sunlight metal here, big sag. The Gaping Dragon drops the key to Blighttown, so we head there next. Blighttown is an infamous area because of its lack of lighting and irritating enemy types. As we make our way through, cautiously sniping enemies with magic, we snag the Shadow set and equip that for its poison resistances to press on. Eventually we need to jump off this wooden beam to snag a necessary weapon, and for some reason I thought that it was just so dark that if I jumped here it would render in, but alas I was wrong. We find the right spot to jump and grab this katana, and then head over and kill this dude hugging the wall who I couldn't hit to save my life and pick up a pyromancy. Then we continue to make our way down these platforms, fighting crag spiders and giant mosquitoes until we finally reach the bottom. Down here and around this corner, we rest at a bonfire and go deeper inside the sewer to find a dragon scale. Exiting back out into the swamp, we are invaded by Mildred, who gets fucking rolled. There's this random person named Kalana just sitting here in the swamp who sells pyromancies, so we buy all of them from her and press on to the next boss fight with Chaos Witch Spider Mommy Kelag. I know I've soul duped and Souls Bros have already left their comments and bailed, but this boss was insanely easy. I was able to just walk around casting spells and she goes down very fast. We take off exiting the arena and pulling this lever to ring the second bell of awakening and pop a trophy. The trophies are definitely way more spaced out now than earlier in the game. Now we make our way into the demon runes where we let this egg carrier guy attack us with a maggot and then stand here for 5 minutes while our character gets lice and then our head transforms into an egg. This would be a wild sentence to hear out of context. This allows us to head backwards a bit and talk to this friendly egg carrier who lets us pass and talk to... Talking to her allows us to enter the Chaos Servant Covenant and also pops a trophy. Then we can buy a couple of pyromancies from this egg guy before heading back out for another boss fight. For this fight, we sprint to the other side of the arena and loot this gear set, which pisses the ceaseless discharge off, and we make him chase us back to the fog door where we just get stuck and dies. What a thrilling boss fight. We change our armor set and head all the way back to Kalana to ascend our pyromancy flames and upgrade one of them to +5. Now we make our way out of Blighttown by standing on this elevator and fighting more spiders to open a chest with a sorcery in it, and then fight some more fat dudes and escape into the Valley of Drakes. Before proceeding to our actual destination, we pivot over to here to snipe this dragon who can't do anything about it, and he dies, giving us a dragon scale. We loot a couple more unique items here and then cross back over into the New Londo ruins. Once again, the fact that we ended up back here breaks my brain. Back in Firelink, we attune the fall control spell and platform over this giant structure to grab this key, then curl up like a ball inside this nest to be taken back to the tutorial area again. Here we head over to this tiny nest and trade with Snuggly the Crow just like in Demon Souls. We trade rubbish for a Titanite chunk, purple moss clump for twinkling Titanite, blooming purple moss clump for 2 twinkling Titanite, dung pie for demon Titanite, twin humanities for a rare ring of sacrifice, a prism stone for a demon Titanite, and an ascended pyromancy flame for a red Titanite slab. Then we cast our fall damage protection spell and fall through the floor where the asylum demon was to fight the stray demon who is like the asylum demon on steroids. I couldn't quite find my footing in the first attempt here and get my cheeks clapped, which unfortunately spawns us back in Firelink, so I go up to the nest again and head back. The second time we use the katana we picked up earlier to just proc bleed on him over and over again until he goes down. He drops a Titanite slab, and we kill a couple of black knights in the area for red Titanite chunks and kill bro who gave us the Estus flask. Back in Firelink, we attune some pyromancies and head back to the blacksmith to give him the large ember we found, and then run past him to kill this spooky demon and then head into the Darkroot Garden. The enemies in this area aren't even that bad, they're just extremely hard to see given how much they blend into the background. Once we open this big door, we fight a bunch of NPCs in this forest and then head inside the stone structure to join another covenant with this fat cat up here, popping the Forest Hunter trophy. Pressing on past the cat, we make into another leg of the forest, this time with weird little mushroom guys running around. The small ones don't seem hostile, but the big ones are for sure. In this little pond is a chest with an ember we need, and we head through another fog door for a boss fight with Big Great Grey Doggo Sif. For this fight, I just hung out underneath her and used Great Combustion, and she goes down extremely quickly, and we pop the Art of Abyss Walking trophy. We'll be seeing this boss again though, twice actually, as it's one of the bosses we need 3 times total for stuff later. Back in the forest, we fight gigantic roly-poly cats and then go fight these giant stone knights and some tree lizards to enter yet another boss door. This is the easiest boss in the game, even if you haven't cheesed like me. Moonlight Butterfly gets magic missile to death in 2 seconds, and we head up to find another special ember and are on our merry way. Backtracking to the start of this area, we pivot over here and head down to the Darkroot Basin. There are these crystal golems here that don't pose too much of a threat, but we're also getting shot at by some giant Hydra in the back of the arena. After clearing the area, we go stand over here to bait a bunch of attacks from the Hydra since we can't get up on its back and take it down. It drops a dragon scale and a ring for us. Now we head over here and quit out to reload so this golden golem spawns, and we just trap it and kill it to get the Dusk of Olisile to spawn in. She disappears, but we run over here and summon her to buy a bunch of sorceries. Then we quit out again and go back to where we killed that golem to get the antiquated set with the Crown of Dusk, which boosts sorcery power. Before leaving, we go knock on this door and this guy tries to ambush us, but we just cast a couple spells and kill him to get a ring. Now we head back to Andre and upgrade some stuff and then head into Sen's Fortress, my personal least favorite area so far by a large margin. This area is all about traps, which is definitely not my forte. Right away we fight this new enemy type, the Man Serpent, and head up to this big swinging axe bridge. We take down the enemies on the bridge and above the bridge just to jump down here and kill more of them so we can fight these 4 Titanite demons peacefully. Once we make it back up and across, we have to avoid rolling balls like Indiana Jones and drop down here to find Buddy Siegmeyer and give him some encouragement before heading back up. In the next area, we have to wait for rolling balls to stack up so they bust through a wall, so while I wait, I run over to grab this treasure. That was 1000% designed to do exactly what happened to me, and I can't even be mad about it. We torch him for revenge and head through the new hole in the wall to go up to the ball mechanism and break another wall so we can reach this NPC in a cage to free him. Heading outside, we run up and avoid the bombs being thrown at us to rest at this bonfire. Then we get an angle on Mr. Bomb Thrower and pump him full of arrows to take him down. We jump across this very sketchy jump to find a merchant and buy some stuff, then make it into this area's boss fight. Luckily, the Iron Golem is also very simple. We just get up against his ankles and set them on fire and he's down super fast. Much like Demon Souls, so far the bosses have not been the hardest part of this game for me. We interact with this ring to be taken to Anor Londo and pop a trophy. There are giant enemies here that don't take damage from the front, so we gotta hit it from the back. The first bonfire, we meet the Dark Moon Nitrous that we do nothing with for now and press on through the area. There's this weird slope we have to walk up and jump onto this balcony to head into this window to fight 2 characters from Aladdin, then climb this ladder to fight even more of them while we cross these beams. I always take situations like this obnoxiously slowly, and thankfully that bodes well for me here. Outside, we fight another gargoyle and get another tail axe we didn't need, and then head up to fight some batwing demons before being faced with a very boring part of the game. If we were to try to run up to these archers to kill them, we would be shot off the building and be sent back to the bonfire, so instead I slap on some poison arrows and line up my shot to poison this one on the right and then sit here until the poison kills him. This allows us to run past and find another bonfire where Solaire is chilling. I used this bonfire to farm these Silver Knight enemies for a while to get the Silver Knight spear, shield, and straight sword, which didn't take me very long at all. Continuing through the area, we run into Siegmeyer again and help him out by killing some more Silver Knights, and then make a very sketchy roll to head over to this building where this giant blacksmith is hanging out. This guy is for special weapons that can be made with boss souls. For now, we just buy some stuff and move on, but we'll be using him a lot later. Now in this giant open area, we fight magic versions of the big Sentinel enemies and then head into probably the most infamous boss fight of this game, Ornstein and Smo, attorneys at law. I bet no one has ever made that joke before. In this fight, you get the boss soul of the enemy you kill second, and we want Ornstein, so we just huck a bunch of fire at Smo and he goes down. Then Ornstein goes Super Saiyan, but this actually just makes him an easier target, so he goes down very quickly. I know, you would have struggled with this fight for hours if you hadn't souls duped. Yep, you're absolutely right, and I don't have time for that because there are still 2 games left in this series I've never touched before, and those games don't have exploits to my knowledge. With them down, we head up this elevator and enter this door, and this is Princess Guinevere, and she is one of the best NPCs in the game for 3 reasons. One of which is the fact that she gives us the Lord Vessel, which pops a trophy and allows us to fast travel between bonfires. The second is because we can join a covenant with her and pop another trophy. And the third is because she's a beautiful independent woman for whom I have the utmost respect. Now we're going to teleport around and do some stuff before moving on with the game. First we head back to Firelink and snag a miracle and then talk to the guy from the cage we freed and buy a bunch of sorceries. Then we go back to Andre and upgrade a whole bunch of weapons, then go back to the giant blacksmiths for a bunch of unique weapons. Then we upgrade the Kellag's Fury Sword and head back to Blighttown for some collectibles. This sword is so fucking cool it has fire when you swing it. We grab a pyromancy in the swamp area and run into Siegmeyer again. I love this guy. We then make it to the far end of the swamp where we hit an illusory wall and then another one to pop out in the Great Hollow. This area sucks because platforming is awful in this game. We make our way down this tree collecting some stuff along the way and then I slip off this branch and die. Don't worry though because I make it all the way back to my souls and immediately do it again. Once we finally make it all the way back to the bottom, we head through this fog gate to Ash Lake. Here we fight another Hydra, and the guy told me to stay behind this tree trunk to fight it, but I got bored, so I ran up and dodged around to cast magic until it dies, dropping 2 dragon scales. We loot a few more dragon scales and make our way up to this massive dragon that we pray in front of to pop a trophy for a covenant, and then before we leave, we chop off Bro's tail, but he doesn't seem to mind for some reason. Back in Anor Londo, we pick up the sorcery from the chandelier we knocked down earlier and head to this giant painting to be transported to the painted world of Ariamis. There was nothing too crazy about this area other than a sweet callback to Demon Souls with Phalanx enemies surrounding the statue. We fight a dark spirit with a crazy hat on and loot another dark ember, then farm these harpies for a while to get 10 souvenirs of reprisal. Now we can head to this area's boss fight with crossbreed Priscilla. Homegirl isn't hostile at first, which is really nice because we can cut off her tail with fire, which pisses her off and makes her go invisible. Luckily, we can cast the Vow of Silence miracle to have a target appear on her indefinitely, and we just slice the crap out of her with our sword. She goes down and we pop a trophy. Heading back to Firelink, we're now going to prep to head back to the new Londo Ruins area from way earlier in the video. The enemies here are much easier than before, so we run through collecting stuff and ghost busting until making it to this new section with these sword dudes and a bunch of smaller blue dragons. Crossing over this bridge, I had little to no issues with these guys, but for some reason after I rested at the bonfire and came back, they were just clapping my cheeks. I ended up being in a worse position than I was before even resting at the bonfire. We make it through and fight more sword guys and this disgusting blob enemy, and then make it to the boss fight where I realized I had not summoned the NPC I needed to summon, so I had to homeward bone back to the bonfire and do it all over again. Eventually making it back, we drop down to the darkness to fight the 4 kings. There was nothing crazy about this fight for me, despite it being another infamous one. We just spin around the camera until he spawns, then run over to it and blast it with magics until the next one spawns, and rinse and repeat, you guessed it, 4 times until the boss goes down and we pop a trophy. Now we talk to this big snake dude to be teleported to the Firelink altar where we stick the Lord Vessel we got from Big Mommy earlier. We drop off the Lord Soul Shard we just got from that boss and head back to the Abyss to talk to Snake Dude again and join another covenant which pops another trophy. Our next stop is Anor Londo, where we make our way up to the Duke's archives and kill this crystal golem for a broken pendant and head back to Firelink Shrine to get some more spells from Griggs. Now we're going to make our way through a huge portion of the DLC area to get some broken spells to help out with the next 2 playthroughs. To get there, we go back to where we killed that golden crystal golem in the lake and go through this dark portal to enter the Sanctuary Garden. We are immediately thrown into a boss fight with the Sanctuary Guardian, whom we spam with magic to take down before heading to the Olasile Sanctuary. There's a big old friendly mushroom here who will sell stuff to us, and we press on to the Royal Wood. After collecting some important items, we go to cross this bridge and a big black dragon flies by, so we wait our turn and head across. Then, before reaching the next boss, we talk to this guy named Marvelous Chester to buy a bunch of black firebombs and head into the fight with Knight Artorias. Much like the other fights, this guy does a fair amount of damage when you get hit, but ultimately goes down to Great Heavy Soul Arrow. We reload the area to talk to this lady and give her some souls to get the silver tracer and gold tracer. Now we can make our way through the Olasile town, killing all of their residents, eventually making it to the super dark area. We use our cast light spell so we can see and head over to this corner to get the dark bead spell, which is one of them ones that does lots and lots of damage. Shortly after, we see the big cat from earlier and follow her until we pivot off to the left here to go save this tiny Sif puppy and get a shield for it. Then we grab the black flame spell and head on towards the next boss fight. This one is really odd because we don't enter the boss arena to kill it. If we head over to this cliff and look down, we can see a bunch of glowing red eyes. This is Manus, Father of the Abyss. And for some reason, if you line it up just right, you can just shoot arrows at him from all the way back here, chipping his health down bit by bit until he dies. Crazy that this could have been solved with just a singular wall. With this soul, we teleport back to Olasile Sanctuary and attune our spells, and then head to this extremely well-hidden path that took me forever to find, where we fight some demon doggos and reach this giant open area that is certainly not a boss fight. Oh shit, you don't say. With this boss spawned in, we nope on out of there with a homeward bone and go up to this giant building to this guy on the roof who then shoots said boss out of the sky. Now we have to make our way all the way back and fight the Black Dragon Calamite. This guy hits like a truck, but our new spells do really big damage to him, so he goes down and drops a Calamity Ring that we'll never use. What we are really here for is the Titanite slab in this chest hidden behind a waterfall. What a classic video game trope. Now we can return to this giant guy to get a cool bow and leave the DLC area to head back to the crow we can trade stuff with and trade the Soul of Manus for the Pursuer's spell. This spell is insanely broken. Before moving forward, we head back to Andre and give him a very large ember, which allows us to upgrade the short sword to a raw short sword and max it out for a trophy, and also the black bow of Ferris to 15, which pops another trophy. Our next area is my new least favorite in the game. First, we make our way back to the Duke's Archives where we got the broken pendant and make our way through this library to this hallway where this Crystal Knight gets fucking rolled by one of our new spells. Then we make our way into a boss fight that's unwinnable, so we die and wake up in prison. The guard here is standing extremely close to the cells, so we can kill him and take the key to get out, which sets off an alarm. We kill all the people who come to pursue us and head all the way down these stairs to kill these two enemies that drop a couple miracles for us and talk to Big Hat Logan, who somehow got captured again. Since we can't rescue him yet, we press on up this ladder and turn off the annoying alarm and grab this key from a chest. Now we run all the way back up these stairs to get to the next section with a bunch of crystal hollows and these stupid guys that spam magic missiles at us. So this is what it feels like. Sliding down this ladder and pulling this lever, we grab a blue Titanite chunk out of this chest and go into a room full of more chests where we open all but one because the last one is a mimic. If he is the last one, when you kill him you get a symbol of avarice, which will be useful later. Now we can go rescue Big Hat Logan, so we run back to him and unlock the cell and grab a Firekeeper soul from the corner, then go all the way back to the room we were just at to the bonfire, so Logan spawns up here. He'll sell us some more sorceries, then we go back to the chest room and pull this lever to head down and outside to fight a billion crystal golems and a golden one. When the golden golem falls, Siglind, I don't know how to say that name, of Katarina spawns in, who is the daughter of our Onion Knight friends, so we tell her we've seen her dad and continue forward. This next section is why I hate this area. Much like the tree section from earlier, this whole arena is designed for you to slip off and fall at any given moment, but the kicker here is that some of the pathways you need to progress are invisible. Couple that with extremely frustrating enemies that I would rather take 10 minutes to kill with arrows than deal with, and this area is the worst. We eventually make our way to this dead end where it's nearly impossible to wait for snowflakes to fall to see where you need to go. So instead we have to spam these prism stones to see if it lands on a path to move forward and get an item. This is going well for me until one of the prism stones betrays me and I slip off and die. Since there hadn't been a bonfire yet, I have to run all the way back, which takes forever, and once I'm back, I just barely make it to the item and back across the prison bridge to go to a different direction that continues forward. Rounding this corner, we fight a bunch of clamshell enemies and go to take on Seath the Scaleless. This big old ice dragon guy can be a bit of a pain, but the most important thing we can do here is chop off his tail for an item. I got extremely nervous here because despite slicing his tail exclusively for damage, he was about to die without the weapon dropping. Luckily, the Moonlight Greatsword drops just before I finish him off and he goes down, popping a trophy. Now we have to go all the way back to where Seath killed us the first time to find Big Hat Logan, who has lost his mind, and we kill him and loot him for our final sorcery, which pops a trophy. We snag the large magic ember from the chest and head back to the Duke's Archives bonfire to open a chest where Logan was prior and get a good catalyst upgrade. Back to Firelink Shrine we go, where we talk to Siegmeyer's daughter and upgrade our flask, then teleport to the Daughter of Chaos to give her 30 humanity, which unlocks a pyromancy and a shortcut later. We will now continue through the demon runes for the game's worst boss fight that we are going to cheese the absolute shit out of. First, we clear this whole area of the Taurus demons and loot this corpse in the lava for a Chaos Flame Ember. Pressing on, we get invaded, so we roll off this side here to get to a bonfire where we can wait for Bro to show up so we can easily kill him. Captain Kirk clearly wants the smoke, he came back for seconds. Then we make our way through the area, killing lots of easy enemies until pivoting off to run past a bunch of these burrowing rockworms to grab the large flame ember. Backtracking towards the fog door, we pivot again to the right and head down to this route to a room full of chaos bugs we will be farming later, and one of them drops the sunlight maggot helm which we need, and now we can head back to fight the demon fire sage. It's not Not much of a fight though, as our new spells kill him very quickly. Now we do a quick teleport to the Sunlight Altar to continue Solaire's questline, then we head back to the bonfire via the shortcut we unlocked by the Daughter of Chaos. The next boss we can cheese as well by standing in this corner and holding up our shield. Eventually he'll grab you, and when he's done having a snack, he just disappears. Running over to the exit causes his health bar to vanish, and we can move on. We find Solaire again and run across this lava with the new ring we got from the boss we just killed, avoiding these giant guys like the plague, and eventually stumble onto another bonfire. From this point, we head up this route and kill this giant gross enemy on the stairs, then fight this weird humanoid fire mage as well as Captain Kirk again, like beam the fuck out of here, man, I don't have time for you. Now we can head down here and kill a bunch of stone demons, then head left to fall into a hole with Siegmeyer across the way, and this is when I realized I wasn't supposed to fall here, so we homeward bone and run it back. We lower the health of the enemies in this pit and then talk to Siegmeyer, and he confidently jumps down to fight them, so we help out and talk to him again. After collecting some stuff down here in the swamp, we make our way up to the Fog Dwarf to fight the worst boss in the game, the Bed of Chaos. Sliding down here, we run up to the boss to avoid getting hit and equip a bow while we stand on this exact spot, then aim over here and throw a firebomb which progresses the fight. Then we quickly try to hit the other side, but miss. I quickly throw again and hit what we need to, but we get hit by the boss and get knocked into this pit after the cutscene. Knowing I would hit this on my first try, I had made a cloud save, so we reload that save and try again. Typically, you would have to run around the arena to get these things we're firebombing, but this boss can just push you off the map whenever he pleases, and it's really stupid and poorly designed. Once we finally nail the firebombs correctly, we roll through the center here and almost die, but make it to the end and hit the boss a single time to kill him. This pops the Bed of Chaos trophy, and we can now continue Siegmeyer's questline back at Firelink by talking to his daughter again. Before we proceed, we equip the item discovery ring and the symbol of avarice to farm these chaos bugs for sunlight metals. We need 10 of them total. With those in hand, we can now head back to Kalana, the girl sitting by the pillar in Blighttown, to get our final pyromancy and pop the Bond of a Pyromancer trophy. Then we head back to that friendly dragon we sliced the tail off earlier and run all the way back down the beach to find Siglain standing over the body of Siegmeyer.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
She gives us a Titanite slab for our marathon run over here, and we head to the next area via the Firelink shrine called the Catacombs. This area is super dark and spooky, so we equip the Sunlight Maggot helmet so we can see a bit better and begin to make our way through. There are skeletons here and fireball mages as well as exploding floaty heads here, so just all around a fun time to be had by all. We eventually run into Patches, who is always an asshole, but I guess this time he's cool.
Wrong!
Continuing forward, we kill this Titanite demon and crawl up inside this coffin to get taken to the Tomb of the Giants, where we can talk to this giant guy to unlock a trophy for joining the Gravelord Servant Covenant. We also give him the Eyes of Death we farmed earlier to get a miracle. Back inside the tomb from before, we make sure to grab this Dark Moon Seance ring, which is important, and press on until we meet yet another blacksmith. This one is a Skeleton blacksmith, and we give him some stuff and head on our way to fight an extremely difficult boss fight called the Pinwheel. I'm just kidding, he dies in like 2 seconds. We pop the Rite of Kindling trophy for beating him and move forward to one of the most confusing areas in the history of the world. I could not for the life of me find the stuff the guide was talking about during this section, and at one point I find a bonfire and pause my timer because my dogs were barking too much on our balcony, and I definitely forgot to restart the timer, but don't worry, I noticed later and add the time. We run into hollow versions of the fat dude from Firelink and his friend, and then run into Patches again, and he tells us there's treasure over here, and god damn it, I fell for it again. Once we're down here, we typically would have to fight those two guys I just killed to save this lady who gives us a miracle and teleports away. After getting out of that area, we find and forgive Patches again for some reason and head back to Firelink to murder the non-hollowed version of Petrus. Then we head back up the elevator to the Undead Parish to talk to the lady we saved again and purchase 3 more miracles. This is where I realized the timer was stopped still, so I ended the recording and added the time to the timer. It was roughly 14 minutes.
My bad.
Back to Patches at the Tomb of the Giants, we run past him and fight this horrifying skeleton beast and then get invaded by Leroy Jenkins, who gets clapped by my overpowered magic. Now we can finally get to the main boss of this area, Gravelord Nito. Outside of it being really annoying that the skeletons kept tanking all my magic shots for him, this boss was really not that bad. Once his minions are down, he goes down pretty quickly and we pop the trophy for defeating him and warp back to Firelink. We now buy a unique weapon from Patches, which I guess is why we let him live. Then we warp to the Dark Moon Tomb and equip that important ring I mentioned earlier to go through this statue and kneel on this altar to join yet another covenant popping a trophy. Then we offer the 10 souvenirs of reprisal we farmed to get a miracle and head inside for yet another hot, fresh, cheesy boss fight. For this one, we just run up to this second pillar here and bro just stands way back there and takes hits from my great bow like it's nothing until it's something and he dies. This pops a trophy for beating him and we open another chest with a miracle in it. Then when we teleport back to Anor Londo, this lady here attacks us and we kill her for her Firekeeper soul. We also sadly go kill Spider Mommy for another Firekeeper soul. Now we're gonna do a butt ton of weapon upgrading in preparation for the final grinds of this playthrough. Once we're done with that, we go to where the big snake guy was hanging out in Firelink and jump down here and give the rest of our Lord souls to the Lord Vessel. This unlocks the final area of the game where there are 5 Black Knights for us to farm Titanite chunks from. We need 14 white, red, blue, and regular chunks for the rest of the upgrading we need to do. With all that farming out of the way, we now head back to Andre to pop some trophies. First, we upgrade the Divine Claymore fully to pop the Divine Weapon trophy, then the Occult Club to +5 for the Occult Weapon trophy, our Lightning Spear to +10 for the Lightning Weapon trophy, and finally our Crystal Harbor to +5 for the Crystal Weapon trophy. I hope you enjoyed that dopamine fest because we're not quite done with it yet. Now we head back to the Skeleton Blacksmith in the Catacombs to upgrade this dagger into a maxed out Chaos Dagger to pop the Chaos Weapon trophy, then the Zweihander to a maxed out Fire Zweihander for the Fire Weapon trophy. Now apparently there's a secret blacksmith NPC in the New Londo Ruins region right at the beginning, so we go visit him for our last two. First, we put the Enchanted Falchion to +5 for the Enchanted Weapon trophy, then the Composite Bow into a maxed out Magic Composite Bow to pop the Magic Weapon trophy. Now finally we can go finish our first playthrough of the game. Back in the area with the Black Knights, we head up here to summon Solaire one last time and head through the Fog Door to fight Gwyn. It's a pretty underwhelming boss fight because of how broken our character is, and he goes down in just a few magic casts. Now there are two endings we can choose from, so we choose to link to this bonfire, which I guess gives the good ending. We sadly do not become the Dark Lord just yet, but we do pop a gold trophy for our efforts. I was really happy at this point because this was the first time I've ever beaten Dark Souls, so let's see if New Game Plus kills that for me. We awaken back in the prison cell immediately and begin to make our way through the game again. The only trophies we're missing at this point are all miracles, all unique weapons, and the second ending. Unfortunately, we'll need a partial third playthrough for the weapons, but we can snag the miracles pretty early on in this playthrough. Bosses in the early game pose absolutely no threat at all with Dark Beaten pursuers. When we make it back to the Altar of Sunlight, we rejoin the Covenant and give 10 Sunlight medals and the Soul of Gwyn to snag the last two miracles and pop the Prayer of a Maiden trophy. Now we just have to steamroll the rest of the bosses, making sure we kill Ornstein first to get the Soul of Smo this time around. The only thing that gave me trouble was entirely self-inflicted, and it was the Four Kings boss fight. When I made it to the Fog Door the first time, I'd forgotten to equip the ring that lets you drop down in the pit, so I died there. Then when I made it back and dropped into the pit, I thought I was clever by swapping rings before the boss spawns in, but don't worry, it kills you for that also. Once I'm not stupid, the fight goes very well. Now since we can skip the DLC area, we head into the Seath part of the game and get killed again to wake up in prison and do this whole rigmarole a second time. We make it down to the invisible pathways and run along them to enter the boss fight and thrash him. Wow, such a thrill, I love New Game Plus. Next we head back down to do the Bed of Chaos fight, and getting down there goes super well. We fight the Demon Fire Sage and the Centipede Demon, then move into the Lava Lakes. Once we make it to the Bed of Chaos, I actually managed to nail the exploit the first try, which was a great feeling, and we kill him and head on over to the Catacombs. At this point I was getting pretty bored of doing the same thing over and over again, which led to a stupid death where I got ganged up on by the Black Knight and the Skeleton Beast. Pinwheel isn't even worth showing, and Gravelord Nito was a bit annoying, but nothing crazy. Then we just had to Great Bow Gwendolyn again and go smith some stuff before heading to the final boss again, this time without Solaire, but that didn't matter at all because magic is OP. We get the other ending this time and pop the Dark Lord trophy, and we move on to New Game Plus 2. The only thing we need to do here is get Sid's soul and make it to the blacksmith, but in order to do that, we have to beat the gargoyles again. I was definitely over it at this point, and that led to a lot of really stupid deaths. Then I made an expert level cliff dive on my way to Spider Mommy. With her down, we head to fight Sif and snag that soul, then go all the way to the blacksmith in Anor Londo to craft our last two unique weapons and pop the Knight's Honor trophy and our platinum trophy, the Dark Soul. So can you platinum Dark Souls in less than 70 hours? Well, it took me 23 hours, 41 minutes, and 47 seconds. So as long as you're willing to pop out the cheese, this platinum is very obtainable in way less time than PSNProfiles suggests. How long do you think it'll take me to platinum Dark Souls 2 as a first-time player? With an estimated difficulty of 6 out of 10 and an estimated time of 80 hours, as well as an incredible reputation for being the best Souls game ever made, we're certainly in for a treat this week. If you enjoy the video and want to add your favorite game series to my challenge wheel, go ahead and like, subscribe, and comment down below. Or don't, this is happening either way. The game immediately starts very weird given there's no character creation, you just kind of go. Before we head inside this ominous hut in front of us, we head down here to snag a small, smooth and silky stone off this corpse. Inside the hut, we create our character. Why didn't they just do this at the beginning? Very odd. We're gonna go with the Knight class, and the Petrified Something as our starting gift. This is also the first time I don't touch anything on the default guy they gave me here, because unfortunately this was pretty close to the generic white guy I am in real life. Once we finish that up, we pop our first trophy and head upstairs to open a chest and then say goodbye to the 4 carbon copies of your mother and proceed outside to our first bonfire. As we progress through the tutorial, learning nothing from these gravestones because we're masters at this point, we stop for a second at this bird nest. Just like Dark Souls, this nest acts as a method of trading. We're going to trade our Petrified Something starting gift and the small, smooth, and silky stone we just got to hopefully get a Titanite slab, a Petrified Dragon Bone, or a Twinkling Titanite. Unfortunately, we don't, so good thing I save scummed and we get one on our second attempt. Now we finish exploring the tutorial area and head out into this game's hub called Majula. First we drop off this cliff and pick up some stuff, and then light the bonfire and go to speak with this lady who will give us level ups. She also gives us our Estus Flask to heal with. What a nice woman. Now we head over and talk to this guy to join our first covenant and pop the Covenant of the Meek trophy. At this point, we can also die 100 times and talk to that guy again for a ring that that helps with protection, but since I'm not a fucking pussy, we're skipping that. I definitely won't regret that later. Next is another covenant we can join over in this corner, but we aren't going to join it, and instead just get to the point where we discover it to pop a trophy. We smash this rock for an Estus Flask shard, and snag a second Estus Flask with it from our best friend the Emerald Herald. Finally, we can move into the first real area of the game, and the spot where I immediately learned that this game is very different from its predecessor. Down in the Forest of Giants, we sneak past this ogre and take out some hollows to rest at a bonfire. This is where the guy teaches me about clearing out enemies, which essentially means you can only respawn enemies a finite number of times before they just don't come back, which means that grinding in this game is actually limited to some extent. I got immediately bored clearing out this first area and decided that I was not going to play that way and moved on with my life. Up this ladder, there's a big area with a bunch of enemies that stand up as you get close, and then also this doucher chucking firebombs at you from above. Once all the enemies in that area are dead, we can climb up and take care of Firebomb Guy before pressing on. As you make our way out into this castle-looking area, we climb this ladder and talk to this merchant inside named Melentia. We need to buy a bunch of stuff from Melentia, so while this guide said fully clearing out enemies was optional, it apparently isn't. Since I don't know enough about this game to know if we can come back later and get this, I'm going to go ahead and farm souls for a while. And so we do. For a while. A long while. Now we can press onwards and sneak up on this giant turtle-looking dude for a backstab, which causes him to just sit on me. What an asshole. In this area, we also meet a guy named Kale who gives us the key to his house back in Majula. We climb up this ladder and nope right back down as a giant eagle jump scares me and cleverly create a shortcut to the bonfire with a firebomb. Then we stick a stone in this face and smack a glowing face to unlock some goodies before meeting a guy named Pate who warns us not to step under this gate or we'll be trapped. We heed Bro's warning and head a different direction, which leads us to these 5 enemies at the bottom of these stairs who I firebomb to prevent from murdering me and head outside. Now we can get trapped and nothing happens because we killed the guys who were going to jump us. Talking with Pate again, it gives us an item that seems important and we head back to the bonfire and down this ladder to eventually reach a lift that finally takes us to our first boss fight. We summon 2 NPCs because this is not a challenge run and I have nothing to prove, and we head inside. The last giant is our boss here, and my god is he underwhelming. He's literally just a tall guy who stomps and slaps his arms around to deal damage. Literally so boring as an introductory boss. When he finally goes down, we pop a trophy and head on our merry way. Unlike previous Souls games, we don't need every unique weapon in the game for platinum, so we can actually consume many boss souls, which is pretty nice. We also have fast travel right off rip, which is a massive W. Back in Majula, we can enter Kale's house, where in the basement we fight a skeleton and grab another Estus Flask shard. Now we can head over and improve stuff at the blacksmith. At this point I decided I was going to stray off the guide when it came to leveling and such because I have heard crazy things about the rapier in this game and I want to try it. We full commit and upgrade the rapier, then head down to the next area called Hyde's Tower of Flame. Here we fight these giant statue guys that do big damage. As we make our way through, we end up in this circular coliseum area with 3 of these guys. We successfully bait the first one, which pisses the other 2 off a great deal, and they bum rush me and kill me. But we pop a trophy, so I can immediately claim that as intentional. We grab our souls and head to the end of the area with a fog door and make a summon before heading in. This boss is called the Dragon Rider, and honestly, the only thing this guy should be riding is a Stairmaster. He's insanely easy with the NPC taking the aggro and goes down pretty quickly. Afterwards, we talk to this lady to buy a bunch of miracles before pressing on. We run along and snag Sublime Bone Dust, which upgrades our Estus to +1, which I forget to use for a long time. Eventually, we reach the next bonfire and head back to Majula to level up real quick and head back to No Man's Wharf. The enemies here are nothing special despite there being a lot of them. Luckily, I can just poke them a couple of times and they go down. We also summon this guy named Bradley, who's an absolute unit and helps me clear the area. On our way bulldozing through enemies, we meet another NPC named Luca Teal. We just keep pestering her until she offers to help us at a boss fight. As we make our way upwards, we run into another face that we stick a light in, which lights the whole area up for us. This is especially helpful with these guys who are massively scared of light for some reason. Nothing overly exciting happens until we meet this big dude we can sell stuff to, so we do that and head outside to talk to this random man sitting on the dock. Because our intelligence is at least 10, he'll sell us some spells. Now we can summon Bradley and Luca Teal for this next boss fight with the Flexile Sentry. This was a decent idea for a boss fight, except if you're on the side that isn't aggroed, it will be extremely boring. Defeating him gives us a chest with our first pyromancy, and we set sail to the Lost Bastille. But we don't actually do anything here, we just travel back to Majula to level up and go back to that bonfire next to the merchant in the Forest of Fallen Giants. This leads us down a new path we open with the soldier key, which after fighting our way through a handful of enemy leads us to another fog door. Before we head through said fog door, we cut our rapier with some magic goop and head inside. This boss I actually thought was pretty cool, especially compared to the other ones so far. He's pretty tough and almost kills me a handful of times, but luckily I'm the best to ever do it and get through on my first try. I bet you all expected that to cut to a death, didn't you? Now we can return to the Lost Bastille and press forward. There are these giant jailer guys that are pretty sweet looking, and then we find Luca Teal with an antiquated key in this chest. Now way over here in this corner we find another chest which certainly won't lead to an ambush. Shocker. This is just another pursuer, except this time for some reason he actually kills me. We go back and snag our souls, but don't kill him since we don't really need to, and head down towards this jailer in front of this very important barrel. Once we kill him, we go down the stairs and kill the doggos at the bottom, and then roll the barrel down the stairs to huck a firebomb at it to unlock Hillary McDuff's workshop. There's a handful of chests here with some goodies, and we give Hillary our dull ember we found to allow her to upgrade our stuff even better, I guess. With all that out of the way, we can now wrap around to the other side of the gate by that bonfire. When we get down to this area here, we're found by the pursuer once again, who dive bombs us with this big old kamikaze move, and we die. Upon arriving back, he spawns again and once again hits a barrel to explode us, and then he runs away like the coward he is. After we explore the area further, dealing with some exploding hollows, we make our way back to that area once more, and this time I get my revenge and he drops a twinkling titanite for our trouble. Pressing forward through many exploding hollows, we eventually come across another statue blocking our way, and this time we can use a fragment branch of Yor to turn it back to a human. This guy is named Strayed, and he's an extremely important NPC that sells us spells. We buy a handful from him for now and move on. Peeling off, we run into this room where you can line up a bunch of these night guys in a doorway, and I also learned you can close doors once you open them, which is completely unnecessary and a huge waste of time. Once we pop a human effigy to become human again, we summon a couple NPCs and head to our next boss fight with the Rune Sentinels. This is the first of approximately 5 billion multi-bosses in this game. It's interesting reading and recording that line now because I know that that is not in fact the case. There are 3 Sentinels for us to deal with here, and I honestly don't understand how someone would do this without summoning the Shades. I feel like the only reason I lived through this on my first attempt is because of them entirely. Once they go down, we get our first boss soul that we can't just consume for more souls and grab another spell from a chest on our way out. We grab this Bastille key from the end of this path and go trade the aforementioned boss soul to Strayed for yet another spell. Now back to Majula, we level up and then head back to the bonfire and Strayed's cell once more to open this door and snag a petrified dragon bone off this skeleton. Across this bridge, we reach our next area, Sinner's Rise. Reaching another bonfire, we make our way through the area, killing more swordsmen, and then find this lift that brings us into a flooded area where we are met with the classic trope in FromSoft games. Remember the Flexile sentry box from like not that long ago? Well, it's just a regular enemy now. Once we take him down by getting him stuck in this doorway, we move on and I find the boss door, but cannot find the summon sign for Lucatiel, which I need. After an eternity of searching for reasons why it wouldn't show up, it turns out I just didn't talk to them enough in this area, so we do that and then the sign spawns. We summon Lucatiel and another one named Luette and head into yet another boss fight with the Lost Sinner. This was described in the guide as being one of the hardest boss fights yet, but I honestly couldn't tell you why. She's a bit faster than previous bosses, but is still ultimately just person with sword.exe, which is once again ultra lame. With her down, we grab a chest with another fragment branch of Yor and then light this bonfire that happens to pop a trophy as it is apparently a primal bonfire. This was the first instance of me understanding what a potential goal may be in this game. Back in Majula, we talk to this lady to buy the ability to switch this path over and find Falcon the Outcast, who will sell us stuff because we have at least 10 faith. We buy some spells from him and head back to buy some arrows from the blacksmith and head to the next area, the Huntsman's Copse. This area sucks big fat fucking donkey shit. I am not a big fan of status ailments, and this whole area is designed to have you be poisoned constantly. Luckily, we can use our recently purchased short bow to kill these poison-pissing butterflies, making the area a bit of a slog, but definitely safer. As we move forward, there's a really tough jump that I nail on my first try. Unfortunately, the wraparound to get back to that jump is pretty much the worst and involves killing a million more butterflies and this giant basilisk. Second time is the charm, and fuck. Eventually, we do stick the landing and snag another Pharos Lockstone before finally moving on to this giant forest area. Here, we fall into this house to fight another big soldier dude and pop open a chest to find a spell and a sublime bone dust. After sniping some more poison pissers, we make our way through the forest collecting things and fight a dark shade named Merciless Rowena who gets fucking rolled by my incessant poking. She drops a key which we can use to open this little clay hut to find a bonfire. We talk to Creighton to learn a gesture and find these caves where we have to kill necromancers to prevent skeletons from respawning. As we make our way along this narrow path killing rogue enemies, we wrap into this cave to kill a necromancer and pick up the combustion pyromancy nearby. Now there's this pro level jump you can make for 40 lacerating arrows I'll likely never use, then we hop right on back. Of course my souls are on the little island. Okay, and here we go. Now with that out of the way, we kill this last skeleton for an Estus Flash shard and then head all the way back to this area to summon Bashful Ray and then summon Creighton, the bro who taught us how to fist pump, and we head to our next boss fight with the Skeleton Lords. The guide here told me to take one of these out at a time as ads spawn each time that you defeat one. I did not listen to that warning.
Somebody help me! This is my nightmare!
This leads to an incredible amount of ads in the arena and getting absolutely rolled. But literally. The second time we played a bit safer and allowed the NPCs to do a lot of the heavy lifting, and the Skeleton Lords and their lackeys are no more. We head back to Majula for a quick pit stop and continue on from the Skeleton Lords arena to the Harvest Valley. This area is somehow worse than the last. We talk to Stone Trader Kalan to buy a spell we can't afford, so we head into the poison pools to fight some enemies and get some souls so we can afford it. While doing so, we run into these enemies called Desert Sorceresses who huck giant fireballs at you. Eventually, we do buy the spell and reach the next bonfire. Then we have a big open area with 3 crystal lizards. The first 2 go down without issue. The third I simply cannot hit with the rapier because of the angle it gets on this hill, so instead I try to take him down with my bow, but I can only fire 3 shots before running out of stamina, and I need 4. This bastard evades death for far too long, but we manage to take him down and press on. In an adjacent area, we get cornered by a million undead huntsmen and they murder me. Then I make my way into this cave on the next attempt and still manage to die. On the 3rd attempt, we take them out one by one and can finally collect all the items in the area. Now we have to get this giant guy to break these boards behind me, which takes forever, and collect some more spoils there. While exploring the area later on, we run into this giant altar where we can join the heirs of the Sun Covenant and pop a trophy. We then have to make our way through these hallways with a million poison pots to find another fireball sorceress and run through some poison to find Lucatiel aura farming again. Further on past the flame lady we just killed is our next area, the Earthen Peak. Yeah, for some reason there just isn't a boss fight in the Harvest Valley, I'm not sure why. This initial room is quite short and just has a bunch of poison beetle enemies and this guy with knife hands, but it really doesn't take too long to reach the boss called the Covetous Demon. There's a mechanic for this boss fight that makes it a joke where you equip a ranged weapon and shoot the pots to drop corpses, which the boss will feed on, essentially removing all threat from the fight entirely. He goes down and we find the next bonfire. The area following that boss fight, which is still the Earthen Peak, is such a pain in the ass. It's a labyrinth to get through, and even with Devotee Scarlet alongside us is insanely difficult. We run into Pate again, who tells us of more treasure to be found, so we find a hidden chamber with great heavy soul arrow and another room with lightning spear. There's not much to discuss when it comes to the remainder of this area, more so because it's just me aimlessly wandering around, failing to follow the guide's instructions. I remember dying at one point and having to find the summon sign for Devotee Scarlet again, which took a while. We do find an NPC called Laddersmith Gilligan and buy a ladder from him, which gives us a gesture and then exhausts his dialogue so he'll go back to Majula. Then there's this other guy named Jester Thomas, who we summon before heading into the boss fight with Mytha the Baneful Queen, or as I like to call her, Medusa Mommy. This fight is insanely easy because we have a +8 weapon now, and Jester Thomas is insanely powerful. She goes down and we move on to the Iron Keep. The Iron Keep is definitely the coolest looking area in the game so far, and as we cross this bridge and kill our first of many knights, we're invaded by a dark shade that nearly kicks my ass, but we prevail. Now inside the Iron Keep itself, we kill more knights and find this fellow sitting on a rug over here, who will sell us some spells as well as a Jester's Cap and Jester's Gloves and a fragment branch of yore to top it off. The Iron Keep has a confusing amount of levers and bridges with knights constantly shooting at you and bum rushing you the entire time. For some reason though, I still didn't find it overly annoying or difficult, which was nice. We snipe some knights and make this sketchy jump to head up this ladder and use a Pharos Lockstone to create a small pool of water. Once the area is cleared and looted, we go ahead and make a backup save because this is another boss fight with Lucatiel and we need him or her, I'm honestly not sure which it is, to survive said encounter. After taking a dip in that pool of water, we head into the fight with the Smelter Demon. The good news is Lucatiel survives this encounter. The bad news is I do not. So we reload our save and try again, and the second time goes much better and the Smelter Demon goes down. This unlocks the next section of the Iron Keep and we head back to Majula to level up. Once we're back at the bonfire after the Smelter Demon, we head back inside his arena for another tussle with the Pursuer. At this point I've pretty much mastered his moveset, so although this takes forever, he goes down and we get the Ring of Blades +1, which gives us a decent damage upgrade for this next area. We press on into said area with many knights and fire traps and eventually find yet another bonfire. Next to this bonfire is a ladder that leads to the Bell Guardian leader, who we talk to and discover another covenant to pop a trophy, but we don't join it. The fog next to him leads to Belfry Soul, a quick little arena with some little dudes running around, and we summon Drifter Swordsman Adel, who absolutely wrecks the enemies here for us. As we reach the end of the area, Adel disappears and we grab the Immolation Pyromancy from this chest and then loop around over and over again through that area until we get the Flame Swath and Fire Whip Pyromancies. This really didn't take that long for me. Now we can continue moving through the Iron Keep and climb way up these ladders to find a lever which turns off all the traps and makes some more items accessible for us. Then we summon Manhunter O'Hara and head to the boss fight with the Old Iron King. There are a lot of threats in this arena that you can get smacked into and insta-killed, but luckily I actually found this boss to be insanely easy. The telegraphs on his attacks are so ridiculously obvious that rolling through them was a breeze. He goes down and we snag a petrified something from a chest and head on down to kindle another primal bonfire, which of course pops a trophy. Now back in Majula we find this talking cat merchant and purchase the silver cat ring from her. Then we find Laddersmith Gilligan again, whom we purchase 3 ladders from to descend this giant pit in front of him. Next we have to fall into the pit. After some careful drops, we make our way into the Grave of Saints. Inside this area, we farm these easy-to-kill rats for the Warmth Pyromancy and then quickly make our way to another bonfire and a boss fight. This boss fight is just a bunch of rats that we murder until their mohawk-wielding boss spawns in, who dies in like 4 hits. What a thrilling boss fight. Afterwards, we run into their leader, who offers us to join their rat covenant, which we politely decline but pop a trophy in the process. Now we continue dropping down and getting an epic drop smash attack on this crystal lizard before snagging the Great Heal Miracle. Further down, we find another passage that leads us into the gutter. This area is incredibly reminiscent of Blighttown from Dark Souls 1, which, like most of the areas in this game so far, fucking sucks. It's extremely dark in here, and I struggled a lot to follow the guide's instructions on getting around, and it just took forever. Outside of fighting a Dark Shade and finding an Estus Flash Shard, all I remember about this area is a zipline. I'm I'm sure there were plenty of important items here to snag, but it was such a miserable area to navigate, I definitely did not collect anything in the order I was supposed to. This area leads into the Black Gulch, which is somehow worse. There are a million of these green statues in the Black Gulch, and when you run past them, they spit poison at you. Not to mention there are these giant things called dark suckers, which do a shit ton of damage to you. Anyway, we snag a spell out of a chest and carefully fall off this cliff to find Lucatiel again and exhaust her dialogue. Then up top again, we fight this big snake thing called a crag splitter, and I get very lucky here as the first one I killed dropped the Dead Again spell. We snag another spell and bring Lone Hunter Schmidt along for the ride, as well as Bashful Ray. This big open area has a million poison-spitting statues, 500 dark suckers, and 2 dark shades to deal with. Which obviously does not go well for me on my first attempt, as one of the dark suckers dark-sucked my shit right off. The next attempt I took it slower and cleared the area and carefully fell off yet another cliff to make it into this dark cave filled with literal giants. We make our way into this corner and pop our bow out to slowly take down all 4 giants to grab the soul of a giant, which we need for later, and the forgotten key. After returning to the top, we drop down again to use said key and meet Dark Diver Grandall. We exhaust his dialogue and move back to the area up top where we summon Lucatiel Schmidt and Ray again and head into the boss fight with the Rotten. The Rotten is somehow weak to poison, so we coat our rapier with it and get to poking. This was another boss where the attacks felt very easy to read, and with all 4 people all beating the life out of him, he goes down very quickly. The area following presents us with yet another primal bonfire, and we pop a trophy yet again. We descend another ladder Gilligan made for us and collect 2 spells and a Witch Tree branch and Witch Tree Bellvine, whatever that is. Then we can talk to Gilligan and he gives us some stuff and, more importantly, a trophy pop. Next, we head through this area to find Ben Hart of Jugo, who I ran into earlier when I was lost. We head inside this place to use a branch on this statue, revealing Rosabeth of Melfia, and then talking to her a bunch allows us to give her clothes. The first time we do so, we pop a trophy, and she now moves back to Majula. We learn a gesture from Ben Hart and find a bonfire before heading back to Majula to talk to this guy from the very beginning of our playthrough. He is very happy we've brought so many people back to Majula and gives us a soul vessel and a trophy pop. I said trophy pop. Alright, time to figure out what I'm missing. After literally almost an hour of troubleshooting, I figured out that this little bitch boy in the cave's dialogue wasn't exhausted, so he never went to Majula. Once he's there and we head back, we pop the Gathering of Exiles trophy and we can finally move on with our lives. Heading back to that new bonfire we just found, we can pull this lever to fight a bunch of goblins and then press on into the shaded woods. Here we find this decapitated head of a guy who gives us a gesture and a helmet to pop a trophy and then run around this mist-filled forest killing ghosts you can't lock onto, which is awesome. After finding the next bonfire, we save Bro from being petrified and he repays us by trying to murder us. Then we explore the area, killing these annoying chuckling curse jars, and eventually stumbling upon this guy who is half man, half scorpion, all business. We talk to him a bunch, and then find the body of the head that popped a trophy for us earlier, and we kill it. Afterwards, we keep exploring and find a handful more NPCs to talk to, which all do various things that I'm sure are important and not a complete waste of time, before summoning a couple of shades, including Mr. Man-Scorpion, to head in and fight Scorpion Mommy Najka. Dark Souls 1 had Spider Mommy, so this feels appropriate. I know that the summoned people make fights way easier, but my god, it feels like there really hasn't been a difficult boss in this game yet, besides maybe the Pursuer. With her down, we return to Man-Scorpion to learn a gesture and head through the boss arena to fight the Doors of Pharos. As we reach the first bonfire here, we travel back to Stray to get another spell with Scorpion Mommy's soul, and then go back to visit Hilary Duff and upgrade stuff so that he'll give us a Titanite slab and pop a trophy for us. This is what dreams are made of. The Doors of Pharos is a very simple area where we make our way through killing some rats and warriors before taking on the Royal Rat Authority. Somehow this was the hardest boss for me so far by a large margin. The issue wasn't the boss itself, but these little fucks who kept inflicting toxin on me, which drains my health so fast that I can't heal and die to the boss. With the rapier, it's pretty hard to hit things that move around this much. I die and die and die again until eventually giving in and sniping the small rats, then killing the boss by standing underneath him, similar to Sif in the last game. With him down, we go trade his soul to Straight again and then press on to Brightstone Cove Celadora. To start this area, we fight these guys in this camp that had their run animation created by an 8-year-old and die in the process. Once we clear them out and collect things, we head over here and let this boulder kill an enemy for us before climbing up and finishing off the group. Now back at the camp, we can summon Ben Hart of Hugo and enter into an area that is going to be tough for people with arachnophobia. Through the next fog door lies the Prowling Magnus in the Congregation boss fight. This fight is once again extremely easy because of a shared health bar for the Congregation and a Prowling Magus that takes a butt ton of damage from my little stabbies. After that epic boss fight, we find Cromwell the partner and buy some miracles, then watch a duel taking place between Pate and Crichton. I'm sure there's a lore reason this is happening, but as someone who has not paid any attention at all to it, I chose to kill Pate because the almighty guide told me to. We get a key from Crichton and head on our merry way. The remainder of this area was nothing special, just a bunch of spiders and maybe a basilisk that hops out of the sand. Our next boss, of course, is a giant spider. With this guy, we can only damage him by poking him in the mouth, and luckily he has 2 heads, so twice the opportunities to do so. While this fight was a bit harder than others, he still goes down with relative ease, and we head to this library and kill this dude who was just hanging out here. Then heading down these stairs brings us to yet another primal bonfire, so we go ahead and light it and Alright, bro yaps for a bit and heads back down to the ground so we can actually light the bonfire, which pops the bright stone bonfire trophy. Hooray! We return to Majula, where the Emerald Herald tells us it's time to rock and roll at the Drangela Castle, but before we head there, we go to level our rapier up to level 10, which pops yet another trophy for us. Traveling back to the Shaded Woods, where we can choose a different path now, we head towards the castle up onto this bridge, where we fight these big old primal knight guys and continue forward. We kill another invisible guy for a pyromancy and head to talk to this guy a million times to get another gesture. After the next bonfire, there's this giant room where killing enemies near a door will open the door, but inside said door is a rune sentinel, which, yes, was a boss earlier. Classic. Also, this happens in nearly every single door, which was such a blast. Go team. Once this room is cleared out, we run into Dark Divo Grandal, aka creepy old guy in a chair again. He finally opens up the ability to join his covenant, which pops a trophy for us, and we deny him anyway. Enjoy your chair, old man. Now we head back to the bonfire and snag this frozen flower, then kill some swan knights, which I would imagine is supposed to say Cyan Knight, so that's hilarious. Then we find Queen Nasandra. She talks a bunch, then we head into the next boss fight with not one, but 2 Dragon Riders. This game is so fucking lame, dude. Remember that boss fight from earlier? Well, now 2. Whoa, game design. We find Ben Hart once again afterwards and chat with him, and then press on exploring the area and collecting a chest with some stuff, including a spell, and kill this super crazy ghost chariot guy. Upstairs, we get munched on by a mimic because I can't read, and then find some more stuff, then ride up this giant elevator to find Mil Finito chained to a door. We just awkwardly walk past for now because we can't do anything about it, so we open these chests surrounding the poor bastard instead. Back down the lift with a key we just obtained, we open these doors and fight some dudes with twin blades that are super cool and hurt a lot. We summon Ben Hart and Boyd, the band of badass brothers, and head into the fog door to fight the Looking Glass Knight. This guy looks pretty cool, to give credit where credit is due, but if you squint, you realize he's just another guy with a sword and armor. His shield can apparently do some crazy stuff, but I never really got to experience that because bro died pretty quickly. For some reason, defeating him pops a trophy, despite him being no more difficult than any other boss so far, and we continue forward. We snag a spell from this chest and head down to the Shrine of Amana. Reaching the first bonfire, we teleport away to do some side quests to snag some goodies, including getting another Estus Flash Shard and trading a bunch of stuff to the crows again. Back to the Shrine of Amana, where we discover that this is the worst area in the entire fucking game. Here, there's a bunch of water with small islands and paths scattered throughout. The entire time you run around this area, you're being spam casted by mages with heat-seeking magic missiles and these stupid crawly guys in the water that sometimes attack you and sometimes don't. Not to mention the guy decided no pictures were needed for this area where everything looks the same, so I got very, very far into the area before realizing there is no way I hadn't found the spot it was telling me about, so I turn around and fall to my fucking death. Now, once again, not having collected anything I need to in the area yet, I march my way back to the same spot to get my souls, only to get DP'd by Tweedledee and Tweedle Asshole and die in literally almost the exact same spot. On my way back the third time, I decide to actually try and find some of the stuff the guide was talking about and manage to do so, grab my souls, and make it to the fog door. But that is not where this story ends, no sir. This next part has poison beetles, but instead of poison, they piss fog that breaks your shit. So the only safe way to kill these guys is to wait for Felicia to kill them. Then we run out into this giant area where, once again, you guessed it, more dudes are slinging spells at you from every direction, and if you step too far to the left, you spawn a shade and die, like me. Run it back. Kill the poison beetles, run out, grab souls, try to kill the casters without aggroing the guys in the center, fail, realize that there's underwater fucks here also, say bye to Felicia, then die again. Run it back. Kill the poison beetles, run out, grab souls, kill casters, kill melee guys while they're distracted by Felicia. Felicia dies, clear the area by the grace of God, collect everything, kill the shade that spawns, enter the boss door, and die again. Run it back. Kill the poison beetles, run out, ignore everything, run as fast as you can to the boss door, head inside, grab souls, by Felicia, wait for skin flaps to open on boss, poke the boss urethra for ultimate damage, boss goes down and my nightmare is over. God, this game fucking sucks. Anyway, now we can move down to the undead crypt where we move through without turning on any lights to talk to this guy who gives us another gesture and head into this annoying room with all these stones everywhere. This room isn't so bad as long as you don't ring any of the Scarlet, you asshole! Even with the bells ringing, we make it through this main hall where we can just camp by this bell to prevent the hollows from ringing. God damn it. This makes the next area a bit of a pain, but we clear those ghost dudes, then carefully aggro these Cyan Knights because we don't want to pull the Dragon Rider with them. Well, shit. Luckily, we can summon Grave Warden Agadine to help us clear them out and then head into the fog door. Who'd have thought? It's Armored Guy with Weapon version 86. With Gold Pine Resin on, this guy takes quite a bit of damage, but he does kill my helper here, and I run out of Gold Pine Resin, so he does almost kill me, which was pretty exhilarating, but he goes down like all those before him. Defeating him allows us to head down here and ignore this giant weird old man to grab the King's Ring and pop a trophy. Now we head back to Strayed and trade once again with him, and then head all the way back to the Tower of Flame where we fought the singular Dragon Rider way earlier on. Heading back through this level, we take a different path than the first time to end up facing off against a dragon. This was the hardest fight in the game for me. This fog door brings us face to face with our old pal Ornstein from Dark Souls 1, although this time he's missing his other, larger half. This was literally so easy, and I could confidently say it would have been just as easy without summons. His moves were extremely readable. Defeating him allows us to talk to this guy and join a covenant, which pops a trophy for us, and then we also learn a gesture. Next, we head back to the Huntsman's Copse and run to a new area called the Undead Purgatory. Here we find a Dark Phantom who pushes my shit in for a while,
Daddy, chill.
and then enter the fog door to fight the Executioner's Chariot. This is a puzzle fight, but don't worry, I didn't read what to do until I was already in the arena, which leads to me getting trampled. Essentially, we just run around the arena to find a lever and pull it, which makes Bro smash into a gate and become just a normal enemy we fought before. With him down, we find yet another dude back here in the dark who we talk to and join another covenant, which pops a trophy, of course. Back in Majula, we buy this miniature from this ladder guy because why not, I guess, and we head back to the Ruined Fork Road in the Shaded Woods to take the one path we haven't taken yet. This leads us to a door where we can equip the King's Ring to open it and head inside. Here we find Lucatiel once more, who gives us some stuff and pops a trophy. Then we farm these little cloudy dudes for a chance at the affinity spell drop, but after resetting approximately 1,000 times we don't get it and they stop spawning, so we move on. Inside the manor, we find this blue door where a guy talks to us but doesn't say the right stuff, and apparently I have to be hollow, so we run all the way back to the bonfire to reverse our humaning in Majula the old-fashioned way and go back to him. He asks us to kill Laddersmith Gilligan, but since we bought that miniature from him, Bro thinks we did kill him and gives us stuff. After that, he asks us to kill Kale, but we're not going to do that, at least not yet. Making our way through the manor, we find all these things in cages and stumble upon this giant yellow pool where we kill some rats and then strip down to nothing to run through and get items. This water sludge piss is supposed to degrade your equipment, but if you have nothing on, there's nothing to degrade, except my freakishly potato body. Now we can move forward where an ogre Kool-Aid mans himself through this wall and smashes me, so we poke him for it, and then another one does the exact same thing right after. Finally, we find our fog door and enter the arena to fight the Guardian Dragon. In this fight, we just stay underneath him and poke his legs a bunch, and then when he breathes flames, we just run to the outside of the arena because they don't go that far. Easy boss is easy, and we head outside and ride this lift to the Dragon Eyrie. This area looks like it's gonna be hard, but really you just run through it and skip everything. Once we get across this bridge, where for some reason we keep forgetting how to walk, we light a bonfire. This fucking guy again, bro. He tells us that he's Aldia, which means nothing to me, and then we head up the stairs to fight the Drake Keepers, which are just big reskins of enemies from earlier in the game. Moving through the area, slicing through Drake Keepers, we get invaded again and kill him, then grab this petrified egg in a chest with a branch and a spell. On this giant staircase, we run into this guy with gold armor that hits like a truck and doesn't take much damage himself either. During this fight, my weapon breaks, F in the chat, so we have to poke him for 13 damage until he dies. Afterwards, we talk to this guy who gives us the Ashen Mist Heart and pops a trophy, allowing us to time travel, because yes. Before we do so, we're going to go back to Guy sitting on a rug to give him the petrified egg we found and reject his ass to join a covenant while popping a trophy. Then we go kill these flame salamanders that stunlock me into oblivion and kill me just to collect a bunch of stuff I likely don't need. Next, we have to make our way through old areas to find specific trees that allow us to time travel. What an insane sentence out of context. At the first tree, we find this guy who teaches us the final gesture, which pops a trophy, and we move through the past and get attacked by these giant ugly things. Basically, we just run to the end and interact with this thing to get a soul of a giant and return to the present. In the next tree, we find Benhart and then head upstairs to run past all the commotion for another soul of a giant. The memory of Jay, spelled very stupid, is our last memory where we summon Benhart and go fight a boss called the Last Giant. Benhart literally doesn't help me at all, but luckily all this guy does is sweep his weapon and stomp his feet, so he goes down very easily. Afterwards, we head back to the memory of Oro to talk to Benhart again, where he gives us all of his stuff and pops a trophy. Then we do the same with Drummond in the first memory, which pops a trophy as well. Trading with Straight again means we can now head into this area with the Brightstone key to get another pyromancy, then go into this time travel thing where we find a dead dragon and take his soul and bail. Next is Belfry Luna, another area where these little guys run around, but this time there's a boss fight with the gargoyles from Dark Souls 1. This time around there are 5 though instead of 2. Still very easy. Back in Majula once more, we head to Lycia, where we use the Crushed Eye Orb and kill her, which gives us another miracle. Now we reallocate our skill points to have 20 intelligence and 20 faith to get some stuff from Falcon the Outcast just sitting in the dark over here, and then reallocate our points back to normal again. Finally, it's time to start the DLCs for the game. For the Platinum, you don't have to fully do the DLCs, there are just certain things we need from them. The first one will be the Crown of the Sunken King. There was immediately a pretty significant difficulty spike, mostly in terms of how many enemies you had to fight at once. Also, there are these sigil things that you have to hit to make buildings move in this DLC, which definitely killed me a handful of times. As you make our way through, we stumble onto an enemy that has the stupid poison statue thing from the Black Gulch literally attached to its body, so a big old fuck you to the developers for that one. The DLC is a goddamn maze, and it takes me far too long to get the couple of spells that we need. There's this area with enemies that you can't attack until you break these statues, which is extremely annoying. Eventually, we do snag the final spell we need and hop out of here without ever having to kill a boss, which is pretty nice, I'm not gonna lie. Hopefully that's the case with all the DLCs. The Crown of the Iron King was my least favorite of the trio by a large margin. The gimmick here is that we have to find these smelter wedges and pierce them into these ashen idols to collect pieces of a soul. Of course, the enemies here hit like trucks and there's a million of them. Also, if there is an ashen idol in the area, the enemies all get buffed from it until you stab it, so that was a neat mechanic that definitely almost got me multi-penetrated a few times. Our goal later on becomes to run across this huge chain to an area with these fat dudes that belly flop and also self-destruct because yes, and then we slide down this ladder to fight this lady and proceed forward. We come to a room with a bazillion of the fat dudes and they all just start blowing each other up, which allows us to grab this scorching iron scepter and stick into this doohickey which activates the forge. Now we make our way all around the area, up and down these lifts to find a bunch of goodies and more ashen idols to make stabbies with. The worst part of this segment for me by far was this fucking guy, Maldron. Maldron shows up and takes some hits and then bitches out and runs down these stairs and baits you into a million enemies along the way. At one point I try and jump over and kill these guys in the center here and slip off and die. When I make it to the bottom and collect the things I need, I decided to try to fight Maldron again, and this is how that goes. At this point, the guide said that below is an optional section of the DLC, so I guess we're done here and we nope out.
What are you? An idiot sandwich.
The Crown of the Ivory King is our third and final DLC, and to be totally honest with you, I remember next to nothing about my time here. I remember there being snow guys and big old ice golems and a handful of spells and stuff for us to collect. But ultimately, there was no boss fight needed and no crazy difficult section, so once we have what we need, we get out of here and head towards the final boss. Yes, this is still the first of 2.5 playthroughs. Buckle up. Heading to another door where we have to use the King's Ring to get through, we run down this ultra long path and summon some buddies for the first round of our final boss gauntlet, the Throne Watcher and the Throne Defender. The gimmick with these two lovebirds is that they each have to die within 20 seconds of each other or they just get up. Luckily that didn't happen to me and I was able to take both out pretty easily. From there you're thrown directly into the final boss, Queen Nissandra. I of course die, but luckily you start from that fight when you run all the way back down, so we resummon our buddies and head back in. This fight isn't too crazy, although it is a pretty sick design compared to many of the bosses in this game. She goes down and we skip the ending and are forced to sit through the obnoxiously long credits, then we pop the trophy for beating the game. This is the only Souls game to not immediately just throw you into New Game Plus, so of course we have some work to do before we restart our adventure. First we head down to the basement here in Majula and talk to Kale a bunch, which pops the Curious Map trophy. Then we go fulfill the rest of the assassination contracts for the Blue Fog guy and snag some spells from it. There's another pyromancer we need to essentially walk on lava for, which for some reason I had a large amount of trouble figuring out how to do that. At one point I opened the chest and died, so I figured I could just run back and snag the spell, but nope, the chest is closed again. So stupid. Eventually I figured out the method and snagged the Chaos Storm Pyromancy, and now it's time for one of the worst grinds I've ever had to do back in Belfry Soul. Here we rejoin the Bellkeeper Covenant and then run inside a bunch to get this guy called the Mad Warrior to spawn. To gain ranks in this covenant we have to kill invaders 30 times, and this guy is the offline method to do that. This was an interesting grind because there was multiple stretches where I would get no spawns and then multiple in a row. Overall, it took me about an hour and a half for this, which honestly wasn't that bad at all. We get the hidden weapon spell we were after, and then head back to Majula where we join the Covenant of Champions, then head to the campsite with the weird running animations for our next farm. Before we get started, we use a bonfire aesthetic on this bonfire, which makes it so the enemies hit like New Game Plus enemies, but they have a chance to drop sunlight medals, which we need 30 of. I'm pretty sure in this farm alone, I had more deaths than the entire game so far. It was brutal. I usually don't mind farming, to be honest, but when it's the kind of farm where you can't just shut your brain off and do it, I am absolutely not about it. One wrong move here and they destroyed my health bar. This took me well over 2 hours to finish, which when I looked that up and saw that when I was writing the script, I was shocked. It felt like an absolute eternity. We go and turn in all those sunlight medals, individually because why, to this altar, which pops the Selfish Giver trophy, and now we can continue on. Yes, we're still not moving to New Game Plus. Remember old guy in chair? Well, we're going to visit him, so he opens a portal for us to go in and fight some blue guys and light a pot on fire. We have to do this 3 separate times at 3 different locations before eventually finding a new boss fight with the Dark Lurker. This guy looks so much like he belongs on the cover of Diablo 3. It was also a pretty tough boss fight, to be honest. At a certain point in the fight, he'll split into 2 versions of himself, and the damage output at that point was insane. Once the Dark Lurker goes down, we get some spells from Guy in the chair and trade another soul to Strayed. Before we wrap up, we're going to go fight an optional boss way back up where we talked to this little fellow earlier. We have to kill him now for some reason. This fight, while dramatic, was pretty simple because you can just stay underneath him and attack his legs a bunch. He's a big beefy guy but goes down, giving us our 5th soul of a giant, which allows us to go back to the Undead Crypt and find Old Man walking around again. Poking him a few times turns him into a boss fight. This fight is pretty easy as long as you stay behind. Like I said, this fight's pretty easy as long as you stay behind him, and when he goes down, we pop a trophy for it, and we can finally move into New Game Plus. Now, if you've been on this channel for any amount of time, you will know that I absolutely despise the concept of New Game Plus. The thing about this game in particular is they actually changed a really good amount of things to make the playthrough feel different. Most of those changes are just more enemies, which feels a bit like difficulty bloat, but I'm no game designer. This run is for all intents and purposes a speed run to the best of my ability, which means it will be slightly faster than the average person, probably. We sprint through everything and kill the last giant, the Dragon Rider, the Pursuer, the Rune Sentinels, the Lost Sinner, the Skeleton Lords, solo I might add, Medusa Mommy, Smelter Demon, Old Iron King, get stuck forever in the gutter area again, classic, and actually have a pretty easy time getting through the Black Gulch to fight the Rotten. The Rotten drops a soul that we trade to Strayed and pop the trophy for getting all hexes. Moving right along, we fight Scorpion Mommy and the giant spider Freya, which I honestly had a pretty tough time with. We get another soul to trade from her, which pops the Learn All Sorceries trophy, and now we have to just pile drive through the rest of the game because the merchant for the last few spells only exists in New Game Plus 2 because game design. I don't necessarily feel like recapping every single boss fight here, so just know that I took the shortest route possible through both areas and also killed Vendrick again to change the ending a bit.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
Once we reach the ending, we kill Dissandra, and then the true final boss spawns in, Aldia, Scholar of the First Sin. They said the thing. He nukes me with a fireball, so I head back down and enter again, and the second attempt, albeit very slow, goes well and he goes down. Woo! New Game Plus 2! I love this game! Fuck yeah! Our goal in New Game Plus 2 is just to make it to Drangela Castle, so we need all 4 Great Souls again, which basically just means we have to play up to the spider boss again. I will literally never forget what happened next for the rest of my life. After defeating all the Great Soul bosses again, I took a break to walk my dogs. I was speaking to one of my good friends Nick and telling him about how excited I was that I was minutes away from popping the Platinum on Dark Souls 2 so my suffering would be over. I sat back down in my chair and locked the fuck in. I died a couple of times to the elephants on the bridge again because I'm bad and make it inside Drangela Castle. Ghost Bro here sells me the last 2 miracles I need, which pops the Master of Miracles trophy, and then we purchase the Great Chaos Fireball to finish out the Pyromancies and pop the Master of Pyromancy trophy. And pop the Master of Pyromancy trophy. And pop the... And pop... And...
Oh, God.
I wish you guys could have been there. I don't think I've ever felt this level of disappointment in my life. My stomach sank as I paged through the Pyromancies to figure out which one I was missing. The real ones already know. So remember back in the second DLC when I mentioned that the guide said the section below was skippable? Yeah, well that was only a section of that DLC. The last Pyromancy comes from the soul of the final boss of that DLC. If you haven't clocked it yet, this means I now have to go through what is typically known as the hardest content in the game, while in New Game Plus 2. We head on down to the altar and go inside the DLC to be met with a large door that won't open. Okay, so apparently we need a key for this. Where's that? Alright, that key is by the Flame Salamanders. I know where that is. We head down there and head through the God fucking damn it. Please, I just want it to be over. With key in hand, we head back to the DLC and make our way through the introduction area, stabbing Ashen Idols and dying a million times because a common enemy hits over half my health here. I was being quite reckless here, just trying to get the fragments of Natalia's soul, often just dying right after. Once we make it into new territory, we find this area with a bunch of Ashen Idols to destroy and then enter into the first boss of the DLC, the Fume Knight. Apparently this guy is one of the hardest in the game, and that's the guide saying that on the first new game cycle. I decided it was the first time I was actually going to learn a boss in this game. No cheese, no help, just pure, unfiltered Dark Souls. I even got to a point where I decided it felt better with no armor while fighting this guy, and after learning his moves for a half hour or so, we managed to take him down. Now we make our way up to the final bonfire at the Smelter Throne and head into the memory of the old Iron King. The worst part about this is knowing the Souls community is absolutely flaming me in the comments. So in order to traverse memories in this game, you need the Ashen Mist Heart from the big dragon guy, which is way farther into the game than I am right now. At this point in time, I considered deleting my channel. I was that ready to be done with this. It wasn't the length, it wasn't the difficulty, it was the fact that I kept playing back that conversation with my friend in my head. I'm a couple minutes away from platinuming Dark Souls 2. We speed run through the Drangelic Castle and make it to the Shrine of Amana, where I was ready to throw my PlayStation off a skyscraper, seeing as I died here approximately 5 billion times. Once we make it through and up to the dragon area, we get murked by the Golden Knight, and I definitely kept my cool after that for sure and didn't almost break the arm of my chair. Then with Ashen Mist Heart in hand, we head back to the DLC to make our way into the memory of the old Iron King, and after tussling with some Alone Knights and into the Fog Door to fight Sir Alone. I'm 90,000% sure that that's not how you pronounce their names. This guy is a quick little motherfucker, so I basically just used my summons as bait and poked him a bunch. It did come down to the wire, but he goes down on my first attempt, giving us the soul we need to take back to Strayed and turn it in and pop the Master of Pyromancy trophy, and that is time on the platinum for Dark Souls 2. We are back to ask one final question before we wrap up the Soul series. How fast can I platinum Dark Souls 3? With an estimated time of 110 hours, a difficulty of 6 out of 10, and 43 trophies for us to hunt, we are definitely in for a long grind this week. This is my first time playing Dark Souls 3, and I've got to say I'm actually pretty excited. Like and subscribe if you enjoy the content, and let's get started.
Yes, indeed. It is called Lothric.
As we start, it takes me far too long to figure out what button skips cutscenes, and we enter into the character creator. The character we're starting with is the Knight class with a life ring.
We told you about the added life rings. One man used one this weekend and then jumped in the lake.
I do my best to give this guy blonde hair, but the blonde looks weird, so we go ahead and start the game. Immediately, you can tell this game plays so much faster than the ones before it. That makes sense given this was made after FromSoft made Bloodborne, which rewards you for being aggressive.
Daddy, chill.
When we reach and kindle our first bonfire, we pop a trophy and make our trek down to this guy who has certainly seen better days. We walk up and yank the sword out of him, which is a natural instinct when you see a frickin' sick sword in a statue. He gets pissed and turns into Vudex Gundyr. Oh great, names are gonna suck in this one too.
Javaris Jamar, Javaris and Lamar.
Halfway through this guy's health bar, he gets possessed by giant black squiggles and kills me. Great. We head back in, and this time the fight goes much better, and we take him down, popping the trophy with his name, I'm not saying again, and another immediately after. Man, trophies are easy in this game.
Too easy, too easy.
We open these doors and progress forward to Firelink Shrine, our main hub once again. The whole gang is here this time. We've got this guy sitting on the stairs who gives us a gesture, level up waifu.
Today we're having a pop quiz on who is the greatest waifu of all time.
Big Blacksmith from Dark Souls 1, your mom from Dark Souls 2,
Your mama is so fat.
and guy sitting in a chair. After talking to them, my dumbass runs around forever looking for a bonfire when I realize the sword we pulled out of Bro earlier is what creates the bonfire here. We use that bonfire to travel to the High Wall of Lothric, our first real area of the game. Initially, this was going pretty well. Also, side note, this game is stunning to look at. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ.
We make our way down and kill a bunch of hollows and climb up these stairs and take a death to this big knight guy, but that's alright, we get him on the second try. Right after his demise, we find the second bonfire for the area and make our way down to these rooftops where a random hollow goes Super Saiyan and almost kills me. Don't worry though, because following that we find Big Knight McSpeary and engage in a duel with him that lasts way too long, and I basically don't even damage him and he kills me. I go back and get my revenge and find this other giant guy with a halberd. It becomes more clear to me in this fight that this is when FromSoft decided to add insanely stupid delays in enemy attacks that don't feel natural at all. Remember how readable the old Iron King was in Dark Souls 2? Well, imagine if he just paused for 1.75 seconds before an attack and suddenly it f***s with your brain and you can't dodge it. That's what happens here, and I die. I felt pretty confident that I could beat that guy though, so we make our way back and end up having to wait at this ladder for some enemies to climb it. Luckily, as they pop their heads out, we surprise attack. Welcome to Dark Souls 3. No, you didn't just have a stroke, we're starting over. See, what I didn't explain to you before is that I was attempting to use a mega condensed version of a guide built by AI, and go figure it was dog shit, so we're starting over using the regular guide now. I'd rather this take a bit longer and do it right. Not much changes about the first bit of the game here, outside of picking up more items and fighting this naked dude with a katana. Kills me a few times, but he goes down and we loot his stuff. I also remembered to level up this time before heading back to the first area. This time, instead of going left at the start, we go right to clear that area out to the best of our ability, and then as we progress forward, we end up meeting a fire-breathing wyvern. Rather than shooting at this guy for days, we're just going to do our best to grab these items between fire breaths, which goes about as well as expected. Inside the door underneath Mr. Wyvern, we run into our first mimic, and unlike other games where I could usually kill them before they even stand up, this guy munches on me like a fat kid at a candy camp and I die. Once we make it back to him and remember that this game is hard, we take him down and he drops a deep battle axe. We swap that in and finally press on back to the bonfire where we were before the earliest crash out in the history of Souls gaming. Then we make a quick trip back to Firelink to talk to this guy who's aura farming against this throne who gives us some stuff we'll sell later and head back to the wall. After killing McSpeary again in this hallway, we make our way into this giant open room with a bunch of enemies. As we run around collecting stuff without aggroing any of them, we reach a point where I have no choice but to jump down here, and this is when I realize I skipped the paragraph that said to clear out these enemies first, so this does not go well for me.
Hey yo, what the f?
Death. Once we clear that room, we snag an Estus shard off this anvil and a cell key which we use to free Gree-Rat and get a ring from him, our second out of 107 for a trophy. F me, and he goes back to Firelink. Now we can go back to get our revenge on this big dude downstairs. He definitely almost cooks me, but dies this time, allowing us to loot the area and head up these stairs to jump over to this platform and grab the Ring of Sacrifice. Not long after, we discover a shortcut that leads back to the initial bonfire of the area, which is a really nice change of pace compared to Dark Souls 2, which like never did that. In this giant pavilion, we kill this red-eyed version of those night guys we've been fighting by literally never letting him even move once, and head inside to talk to Emma. She gives us our first of many Covenant discoveries, and we pop a trophy. After 2 hours from starting the game, I think it's about time we go fight a boss, don't you? We make a quick summon to bring that naked katana guy from earlier in with us and enter the arena to do battle with Vort of the Boreal Valley. The key to this fight is staying as close to the boss as possible, so says me, the guy constantly getting hit by attacks. At about 50% HP, he goes into Mega Mode, as seems to be the trend in this game, and gets quicker and stronger. He's no match for the Naked Samurai and a guy who's platinum 3 Souls games already, and goes down, popping the trophy with his name on it that I'm not going to say again.
Ty Royal Smoochie Wallace, University of Miami.
Back to Firelink, where we level up after selling all of our soul chunks aside from the boss soul we just got, and then get 2 more Estus Flasks from Audrey. Yeah, I only mentioned 1 Estus shard I got, but somewhere I got another one and I don't remember where it was. Welcome to the channel. The first thing we're going to do before continuing is farm up to 20,000 souls to buy the tower key from the Handmaiden. We do this by going back to the bonfire I rage quit at and killing the 2 guys down here over and over and over for literally like an hour. Once we have the 20k we need, we snag the key and go unlock the tower and head up. On top of Firelink Shrine, we find the dead body of an ex-firekeeper with a soul attached to it. The guide says we don't need this, but it has to do with one of the 3 endings we'll need later, so why do we get this now? Who the f knows? Making our way back down, we have to nail this jump by equipping our weapon and landing on this gravestone, then falling down. This is embarrassing. Falling down here to get the Estus ring. Then we find the trade raven for this game and trade a firebomb for a large titanite shard before snagging another Estus shard that I remembered this time and hitting an illusory wall for another ring. Finally, we can head back to the arena where we fought Vort and head through the doors at the back to skip a cutscene and enter the undead settlement. This is where all the unused assets from Bloodborne ended up. Souls fans in the comments like, actually, that's not correct, get f***ed, loser. As we make our way down these long stairs and kill some doggos, we find this sea of petrified people or something people adjacent, aside from this one who we send to Firelink. We follow him back to Firelink and get a gesture from him, then proceed forward into the settlement to a bonfire, then meet the main enemy type of the area. Come on, you're gonna tell me these aren't just villagers from Bloodborne? Then there's this giant area where we attempt to firebomb some enemies and end up fighting this giant lady who gives me a big hug while she's on fire.
Big mommy milkers.
And then after clearing the area, we loot it and find Loretta's bone to give to Grey Rat later on. As we enter this building and kill this cage full of appendages, we drop down a hole in the floor to find a talisman for the Warrior of Sunlight Covenant, popping a trophy in the process. This covenant gives me PTSD. Pressing on out into this open area with a fat lady shooting black goop at us, we bait the enemies out, then her as well, and move through this building. I use an ember to rekindle myself, which sounds inherently sexual, but is absolutely not, and get invaded by Holy Knight Hodrick. This guy is very fast, doesn't stagger, and hits like your stepdad. He also heals himself, which is super fun. Somehow we do manage to take him down and get a vertebrae shackle, an item we need to farm later for a covenant, and press on. We find the next bonfire and teleport back to the first bonfire of the area to make our way across this bridge to a new area. There's a bunch of little f***s with blow darts here, so we hide behind this rock wall to fight the regular ones before climbing up to kill them. We stumble upon this body bag that we have to line up carefully as we chop it down so it doesn't go flying off this cliff, and get a ring from it. Now this friendly fellow will take us to our next destination if we interact with the cage on his back, which sticks us in this large pit and face to face with the non-shade version of your stepdad from earlier. Talking to him a bunch pops a trophy for discovering the mound makers, then we homeward bone on out of there. After unsuccessfully firebombing some enemies along with myself, we find the next bonfire and climb around this building to find the pyromancy salesman for this game stuck in a cage. Talking to him sends him back to Firelink, so we follow him there and snag a gesture. Back in the undead settlement, we make our way into the sewers where we fight a giant rat and open a door for a shortcut back to a bonfire. Yeah, the level design is back in full throttle for this game. We end up having to take on 2 of these giant guys at once, and I try to trap them in this door frame, but sadly they just break through. Somehow we survive the encounter and move forward to meet Igon of Karim, who is an absolute asshole, but luckily right after that we find the descendant of the love of my life, Sigurd of Katarina. Yeah, unfortunately Siegmeyer is still very, very dead, but Sigurd will do just fine to fill that gap in my heart. We teach him how to use an elevator and go up to meet this non-hostile giant that the guide said to kill in this playthrough, so we do and snag the hawk ring for it. With that giant down, we can now enter this area with a bunch of giant arrows everywhere safely to loot some important stuff, including our first undead bone shard and Mortician's ashes. Back in Firelink, we trade those ashes to the handmaid so she'll sell us more stuff and buy the grave key and the heal aid miracle from her. Then we upgrade our flask to +1 at Andre and head back. After using the grave key, we make our way through a slew of skeletons out into this open area where a big dude tries to switch us from above and then reach Irina of Karim. She asks us to touch her, I swear, check the tapes.
Care to tell us what you're doing here? Sir?
And gives us a gesture for it. After finding a shortcut back to the boy from earlier, he now wants to help us fight a boss later, allegedly. Now we head back to the elevator from earlier and hop off onto this wooden platform to find Sigurd again, contemplating whether or not he should go fight this giant fire demon. We make the decision easy for him and jump down to face him ourselves. Not long after, Sigurd joins us,
I, Sigurd of the Knights of Katarina, fight by your side.
and we triumph over the monster, and he gives us 2 gestures as he goes to take a nap. Love this guy. In Firelink again, we talk to the guy that was aura farming to get a tower lift key and head back to the Tower of Lothric to unlock this door and head down this lift. At the bottom, we shoot this dude with an arrow to piss him off and then step on the elevator as he approaches, causing him to lunge at us and fall to his death like a cartoon character. Returning to Leonard, we get a gesture and head all the way back to where we fought the fire demon, where we end up in a house fighting 2 of the fat ladies at the same time, which was awful. Feeding them allows us to access the roof with Flynn's ring, which sadly won't be as useful to us in this game as it was in Dark Souls 2, and drop off onto this tower and carefully fall down to find the Chloranthy ring, which we equip right away. Now it's finally time to make our way to the next boss arena, where we find a bunch of villagers worshipping a tree, so we head over to kill them, which pisses off said tree, so he wakes up and tries to kill us.
I want to mourn the loss of all trees I've seen!
Y'all should know at this point there's nothing I love more than a boss fight with a bunch of ads, but honestly the boss itself here isn't overly threatening. The part that was tough about this is figuring out how the f to damage him. He has these big pus balls on his limbs, and breaking them takes a chunk of his health off, but there's only like 2 aside from the one on the very front of him. So we pop the very front one and he gets pissed and breaks the floor, changing the arena, which was cool. Not long after that though, he kills me with his new pus hand and we run it back. This time it still gets very close to the wire, but we're able to pop more pus balls on him and the giant group of them attached to the pus hand before finally finishing him off and popping a trophy for our efforts. Now it's time to make our way back to Firelink. Talking to the guy sitting in the chair allows us to transpose some boss souls, so we do that for a ring and then go buy a couple sorceries from Yoel. Immediately after, we go buy some pyromancies from the guy from the cage and some miracles from Irina. We head over to the Firekeeper to level up and head back to the elevator we met Sigurd on and head down this time. This leads us to a chamber with this super fast mini version of Vort, except he has one gigantic weakness: his inability to exit this door. So we just wait for him to turn around and smack his booty a bit, and he drops a sword and we go ahead and swap it in for now and enter into the Road of Sacrifices. The enemies here are these weird looking dudes that sprout wings like Sephiroth, but actually go down pretty easily. As we're trekking along the path, we run into this lady who I was definitely unsure if she was a friend or foe, but she makes that pretty obvious by trying to kill me. We take her down and kill some more crow dudes, then jump off this bridge to find a bigger doggo, as well as a ring and a tome we can give to Irina later. At the next bonfire, we meet 2 new peeps, Henri and Horace. Horace gives us a covenant discovery and a trophy pop, and then we head back to Firelink to talk to this new lady, Cyrus. In the area following the bonfire, we find more enemies that belong in Bloodborne and some poison beetles. These little gave me some sort of PTSD from Dark Souls 2. There are also these giant enemies called lycanthropes, despite not being werewolves at all, and as we enter this building we encounter our first Black Knight. Despite the guide saying this guy would be tough, he's extremely vulnerable to being in the
Don't drop the soap. Don't drop the soap.
Michael, please.
We do that a couple times and take him down. Now in the room past him we find the spell sword set and the weapons that we'll be using for the remainder of the game, the spell sword twin blades. These swords are so good that the Souls community affectionately calls them the spell sword wind blades and deems it easy mode to use them. Sounds perfect for a scrub like me. We pick up a coal at the end of the hallway and find the next bonfire out in the woods from before. We kill some more non-werewolves, which is way easier to say than lycanthropes, said it anyway, and then we find an Estus shard. After giving that to Andre, we head down to the swamp area that thankfully doesn't poison me to fight some small crabs. Somehow the giant one spots me from like a million miles away and does the most unsettling sprint over to me and proceeds to kick my ass to high heaven. Even my so-called broken weapons do basically nothing to this guy, but we do manage to take him down and loot some nearby stuff. Don't worry, there's another one shortly after that goes a bit better than the first. There's a handful of items we collect here, including a pyromancy tome for Cornix, and finally we press on to this small hole in the wall to kill some hollows and meet a new NPC, Orbeck of Vinheim. Since we have 10 intelligence, he will allow us to speak to him, and after doing so, he heads back to Firelink to become our sorcery salesman. The boss is up next, but first we summon the asshole guy Igon from the last area to help us out. Enter the Crystal Sage, which despite being a relatively simple concept is an absolutely sweet boss design. She will teleport around the arena similar to the Fool's Idol and Demon Souls to cast some nasties at us. Until, of course, she, he, they gets to 50% health and begins to create clones. The tell for which one is the real one is that they'll be casting purple sorceries rather than blue. Despite knowing this information, I still get smacked around quite a bit and come within millimeters of death before eventually taking them down. We pop a trophy and rest before heading back to Firelink once again. We transpose the Crystal Sage's soul for a sorcery and go to sell stuff and level up before heading back to the Crystal Sage bonfire. From here we take this path up, eventually running into our next bonfire in the Cathedral of the Deep. There's a couple of non-respawning tougher enemies guarding the archway past the bonfire, so we take them down and rest and then head inside. This room sucked balls as there are a bunch of doggos to kill while you get sniped at by crossbow-wielding hollows. We make it through and inside the cathedral proper to immediately head back outside to grab an Estus shard from an obelisk and into a graveyard with a million infinitely respawning enemies. As should be expected by this point, I get lost trying to just sprint through everything and get covered in maggots by the enemies here, which causes bleed to proc on you, which is ass. When we cross over this bridge, we face a Grave Warden who tries to out-twin blade us before finding another dead bone shard to upgrade our Estus with. We head back and do so, and then upon returning, head down into this valley to run into a crystal giant lizard to take down. After looting the area, we head back up to where we fought the Grave Warden, who is back with a vengeance before heading across this slanted roof, taking out more hollows along the way. We fight another fat lady and some thralls, which are these little dudes that are annoying to hit, before reaching an area that has 2 of the Grave Wardens. This fight felt extremely unfair, but somehow I managed to survive, but with no heals and no health left, so things are looking grim. Right up these stairs, we run into a giant axe hollow, and go figure, he kills us. The run back to these souls was probably the most nervous I've been in a Souls game so far, but I do manage to get back there and take out the enemies to finally enter back into the cathedral. After finding a shortcut back to the bonfire, we enter this room where a giant stone guy starts slamming his fist down everywhere, eventually claiming my life. On the next attempt, I just run as fast as I can to snag the items here and reach the other side. We have a rematch with a mimic and then enter in this ominous room that is of course a trap. This horrifying abomination drops down off the ceiling, but the poor bastard can't fit in the door frame, so he dies very easily and drops a ring for us. In the next open area, we're invaded by a guy named Longfinger Kirk, who must be a descendant of Kirk from Dark Souls 1, and this mother gets the most perfect, just the tip ever on me to kill me. We get our revenge, then head out into this sludgy water area to exact more revenge on the stone giant that was smacking me all around earlier. He's super easy to kill down here, and we loot the area and press on. The main congregation area of the cathedral is home to a handful of fire-casting deacons and this sick-looking knight guy with a giant sword. We carefully try to aggro some deacons without the knight and fail, so we take them all down just barely and then run into Sigurd again. He tells us to run across this bridge to find treasure, and we trust bro with our whole being, but turns out it was actually Patches who stole Sigurd's armor.
Shame on you greedy guts. Thought you could outwit an onion.
Bro's been in the trolling game for thousands of years at this point. Game respects game. Back at the area just outside the bonfire, we find Sigurd in this well, and apparently he's just naked chilling in there, so let's go get his stuff back. We take a lift up to this deacon who drops a ring and then move along the roof to enter onto these rafters. There are a bunch of cathedral knights here, and instead of taking them on legitimately, I decide to try to get them to slip off and fall to their deaths. This plan works for all 4 of them, which made me very happy. We can then drop down here and kill this man grub guy to confront Patches. After spending 15,000 souls on Sigurd's armor to get it back, we return it to him for a gesture and go all the way back to where Patches was to continue forward. We then kill a billion gross man grub things to enter this door and find Rosaria, the mother of rebirth. She allows us to join her covenant, popping a trophy and giving us her fingers. Blah. She also allows us to reallocate our skill points, so we do that to add some more into dex since we don't need intelligence and strength anymore. Now back in that main cathedral area, we summon the 2 bros we met a while ago and head in to fight the Deacons of the Deep. This is another ad-heavy fight, except the boss is actually the ads themselves. The boss only takes damage when you damage the one that's glowing red, so that hops around a bit, and then the gimmick somewhat changes at 50%, but not really. There are now these blue-robed guys that don't seem any different from the others, and the rest of the health bar belong to one of them in particular. With them down, we pop a trophy and gain a small doll, which we'll need later, and then rest to spawn in the Archdeacon set on this body before heading back to Firelink. After transposing a soul with Ludleth again, we head back up to the tower we unlocked earlier and head across the bridge to get locked in here by Patches.
Sorry, friend.
Then we hop down the coffins again to make our way back outside and confront him again, and he begs for forgiveness, which we refuse, though only vocally. God, I wish I could kill this guy. We leave and come back to get the Patches squat gesture and then level up and head back to the big swamp with the giant crabs. Across the way, there are these 2 dudes who bum rush us, so we run past them to get on this ladder and slide down. Which is where I realize they can just follow me, so I kill them down here and rest to head back up and kill them the funny way by sitting up here and letting them attack us, forcing them to fall down to their doom. Get losers.
That one there was a violation. Personally, I wouldn't have it.
Now we can press on into the next area, the Fair and Keep. While the name of this area sounds like that of an epic indoor castle, it literally couldn't be more opposite. Welcome to Miyazaki's sadistic wet dream, the Poison Swamp. Luckily, the poison in this game doesn't kill you super fast, which is nice, but we trudge along snagging an Estus shard and facing off against these ugly dudes called Grus. Right after our first encounter with them, we find the first of 3 small flames that we have to snuff out around this poison swamp. Then we continue to drudge our way around the swamp and find the second flame shortly after. There's this giant tower with 1,000,000 slugs in it housing another undead bone shard, and then we end up having to fight another giant crab, although this one succumbs to the might of my upgraded wind blades pretty easily. Turning left from here, we find a massacre scene of the little mushroom people from Dark Souls 1, which is a completely unnecessary callback, and find the Sage's scroll to give back to Orbeck. On our way to our next objective, we fight an invader called Yellowfinger Hayshawl, which isn't so bad. Then we get lost for way too long trying to figure out where the guide is referencing. Once we find our objective, we fight these 3 gigantic dudes that are trying to beat me with entire trees that spawn little red balls that melt your health. The final trek to the last flame to snuff takes place in this deep water where we can barely move, but we have to fight one of the big dudes. He almost kills me, but we prevail and make our way up to the final flame. Before heading through that door we open, we're going to head into this cave to get a golden scroll real quick and then climb this ladder to find this giant dead doggo. Interacting with him allows us to snag a gesture and join a covenant, popping a trophy. Then we can ride this lift in here shortly after to head up to this bridge where we can kill a bunch of crystal lizards, then backtrack to fight the stray demon. This is probably one of the most recognizable bosses in Souls history, and for some reason in this game he doesn't have an actual boss health bar, which was odd. Also in this game he can grab you and hurl you off this bridge at light speed, so don't let that happen to you. We make it back to take him on, where he grabs me yet again and chucks me thankfully at a wall this time, and then we finish him off collecting the soul. Now back in the poison swamp, we enter the large doors from earlier and take some side paths to snag a miracle and sorcery before emerging to a bloodbath. These dark wraiths are all massacring the grooves for us, which is nice.
Look how they massacred my boy.
But then they turn and come for me, which doesn't bode well for them. Then we can finally make a summon for Blackhand Gothard and enter the gate to face off against our first Lord of Cinder, the Abyss Watchers. Which is a bit confusing because it's one singular Lord of Cinder, but the boss name is plural. This guy just exudes aura, bro. I honestly feel like I just took a second at the beginning here to admire how cool this was, like right out of the gate before getting to the whooping. When the boss hits about 60% health, a second Abyss Watcher spawns in, and then shortly after a third one comes, but this one's actually on your side. I mean, Jesus Christ, this was more creative than every single boss fight in Dark Souls 2 combined.
Make him frickin' sick, yes.
After gushing some more, we finish off the boss, but that wasn't all. Now he enters into a second phase where he's even more aggressive and also even cooler.
Yes.
The boss design in this game honestly has me so hyped for what's to come. He goes down on my first try, mind you, and we pop a silver trophy as I pick my jaw up off the floor and rest at the bonfire to head back to Firelink. After swapping the soul of a stray demon for Havel's ring and running around getting a bunch of other goodies, we level up after farming a bit and head back to the Abyss Watcher's bonfire. This wall pushes back, revealing the entrance to the Catacombs of Karthus. As with most catacombs in the gaming sphere, this one is riddled with skeletons, except the ones with white eyes you have to kill twice, which was kind of negative points on game design there. Shortly into our time, we get invaded by a human player. Das, not good. Not my best work. Das gets a leg up on me in the fight at first, but then gets murdered by his dial-up internet connection. Moving right along, we find Henri again, who's missing her other half Horus, so we tell her we will look for him. Then we find the skeleton boulder and shoot a poorly written fan film of Raiders of the Lost Ark that's still better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, before finding the skeleton controlling it, making it smash into a wall, giving us another undead bone shard. I try to be clever and hit these 2 skeleton guys with fire arrows, which doesn't work, and we find the next bonfire here. Down the slope, avoiding another rolling ball of bones, we run into another invader called the Night Slayer Sorig. This fight was actually really frickin' hard, but he falls like all the others. We find this long bridge with Henri standing over here, who we inform we still haven't seen Horus, and as we cross this bridge, a billion skeletons spawn behind us. Luckily, this game is goated, so you can cut the ropes on this bridge, causing them to fall and die. The fallen bridge turns into a ladder, and we climb down to find another giant fire demon. This one clasps my cheeks without the help of Sigurd, so we run it back to take it down before killing a mimic in the corner for the Black Blade. There's another bonfire down here, which we'll utilize later, and now we can double back to the area just across the bridge to find this altar. When we interact with said altar, a cutscene plays, putting us in this dark room with a corpse in front of us, and oh my god! After the jump scare of the century, we're thrust into the fight with High Lord Wolnir. Despite this guy's massively spooky appearance, he's actually a very easy boss. When we destroy these bangles on his arms, he loses like a third of his HP. Although for some reason after destroying the second, he kept quickly crawling up the slope we were fighting on, and if you get behind this guy, the environment just chunks your health off and you die. This happened to me not once, but twice before I finally figured out that I needed to back the f*** up and chill out for a sec. Then we can shatter the third bangle, sending bro cascading down into the depths of oblivion and popping a trophy for us. You know the drill, rest at bonfire, head back to Firelink. After transposing and leveling, we head back to that abandoned tomb bonfire from earlier and head down this corridor into the smoldering lake. In the body of water that gives the area its name, we're constantly shot at by this giant ballista that shoots equally as giant arrows and run around collecting stuff. We find this cave where it's safe, and at the back of it we find Horus, who unfortunately has gone hollow and tries to kill us very unsuccessfully. Rip Bozo. Now we get the big arrows to hit a brick wall to give us a ring and a floor for us to drop down into where we find the next bonfire. Before continuing here, we head back to the lake and get jump scared by a giant sandworm. Put a Dune reference in here, so help me God. In order to kill this dude, we stand behind this particular rock where the arrows won't hit most people aside from me because I'm but but they do hit the sandworm. The giant sandworm goes down, dropping a miracle and an undead bone shard. The area following the bonfire from before was a goddamn labyrinth for me, and I had a lot of trouble navigating it. The guide kept mentioning dead demons, and it's like, bro, there's dead demons everywhere here. I need a better point of reference. There was not much that happened here outside of me getting lost and killing a bunch of enemies. Eventually, we have to walk through some lava to grab an item and die, and then later on we run into the human version of Sorig from earlier and bait him into setting himself on fire with alluring skulls before stepping into the lava and doing the same ourselves. Once we've gathered all that we need here and shut off the giant ballista, we make our way to summon 2 helpers before stepping into this arena to fight the old demon king. Outside of some giant splash damage attacks, this dude didn't feel too special. He did bring me within an inch of my life several times, but with the other 2 smacking him for aggro, healing was pretty simple. His half-ish health gimmick was just going mega rage mode, but that didn't change much about the fight, and he goes down, popping a trophy as we head back to Firelink. After we trade, sell, and level, we head back to the bonfire near High Lord Wolfnir and move forward from there into Irithyll of the Boreal Valley. Right away on this bridge, we're back attacked by this gigantic enemy who I wasted blood grease on, or whatever that's called in this game. He drops a ring and we proceed through this barrier that we can only pass through because of the small doll we got earlier, and we rest at the bonfire and double back across this bridge. On the other end, we can enter into the world of Cirrus to help her kill none other than Kraden, who some of you may remember as the guy we helped save in Dark Souls 2. He goes down very easily after getting stun locked, and we make our way back past the bonfire into the actual area. The enemy types for this area are super cool looking, but also hit really hard and fast. They are called Pontiff Knights, and they usually come in groups, which sucks. The other commonly occurring enemy here is the Irithyllian slaves, which are fodder enemies that will be invisible later on. There are also these giant Pontiff people with stabs that cast the most annoying spells ever, including one that just pops you up into the air. As we press on killing more knights and witches, we find the magic clutch ring and a bonfire as well as Henri. Talking with her gives us the Ring of the Evil Eye and another gesture. In this corner there are these statues, and the one standing here is actually an assassin here to kill Henri, so we instead reverse Uno him to save her life. Now we're in the thick of the invisible enemies I mentioned before, and we run into a rematch with Kraden, who is just as easy as the first time. Making our way into a giant river area, we fight these creepy enemies with long hair and reach a bonfire called the Distant Manor. Not proceeding forward here, instead doubling back, we enter the sewers here on our right that is riddled with these long-haired douchers. After finding the exit of this area, we run into Sigurd resting in front of this fire, who gives us a miracle and another Sieg brew. The room after this has a Silver Knight staring at a painting of Guinevere from Dark Souls 1 who gave us the Lord Vessel. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about, don't lie. The Silver Knights are a bit tankier than Dark Souls 1, but ultimately go down all the same. After clearing them out, we open 3 chests and exit the building, getting invaded by Londor Pale Shade, who doesn't pose much of a threat at all. We can then hop off this ledge here to drop onto the Ring of the Sun's Firstborn and make a couple summons before heading into the boss arena. Once again, despite this technically just being a dude with swords, his design is just so cool, man. This is Pontiff Sulivan, and another awesome example of boss design in this game. Our NPC friends dish out quite a bit of damage, but so do we, so bro doesn't take long to enter his second phase where he summons a clone of himself. Thankfully, the clone dies in like 2 seconds, so then we can all refocus on thrashing the boss, and he goes down, popping a trophy. Now we can head back to Firelink and grind out some souls for a while to be able to reach level 69. High five. As we stumble our way out from the previous boss fight, we stake our eyes on none other than Anor Londo. Wait, no, this one. This one's Anor Londo. That's right, everyone's favorite area from Dark Souls 1 returns in full force here, but unfortunately I'm left unable to enjoy my trip down nostalgia lane because some invading people in Dark Souls 3 in his mother's basement comes to diddle me. I don't know why I don't just let these guys kill me when this happens, but I think it's a pride thing, and that makes this fight go on for a very, very long time. After losing definitely on purpose, we make our way around the area, fighting more robed hollows and these 2 guys with glowing purple testicles before making our way inside. Down this ladder, there's a large open area with 2 of these big doggo guys that do a shit ton of damage and wreck me, so after making it back down there, we take them down carefully and talk to this guy. Never mind, he's dead, we just pray and join another covenant for a trophy pop and move on. Now we have to make our way through some frustrating sections that made me shake my fist at my screen, but with a smile on my face because hey, we're in Anor Londo. As per usual, there are Silver Knights here, and go figure they still shoot gigantic arrows at us that can and definitely do knock us off these platforms we're on. Since I don't have the means to take these guys out at range, I instead just carefully try to bait them to a spot the archers can't hit me and then bum rush the bastards at the top. Progressing forward, we end up in front of the illusion statue from the first game and hit it to be brought to the arena where we fought Gwyn. Luckily there's no boss here because I cheesed the hell out of him before, but there is some stuff for us to collect before we double back the way we came. Pulling this lever operates the giant familiar staircase mechanism, and we head up to find a bonfire that we will become intimately familiar with later in the run. Heading backwards and across this completely invisible bridge, because this is a Dark Souls game, we drop down here and talk to Yorshka, who is a child of Gwyn. Don't tell her we killed her dad with a billion giant arrows to his skull. We use a gesture in front of her and pop the Blade of the Dark Moon trophy for yet another covenant before heading back to the bonfire. Now we can progress up the giant stairs, killing some more Silver Knights to find our big blacksmith friend who popped our platinum trophy in the first game, still clutching onto a coal for us to yoink, and we head out into the cathedral. There are a billion slimes here on the ground and one of those terrifying hanging onto the ceiling. I try to be cheeky and trap him down at the bottom of the stairs, but honestly it probably would have just been easier to fight him straight on. After we open the giant doors once again, we can finally head to the boss fight with Aldrich, Devourer of Gods. If you stay on top of him, this boss won't cast a bunch of sorceries at you, making the fight a lot simpler. Halfway through, he adds fire effects to everything, but overall isn't that much different. There is one attack where he sends a bunch of arrows after you from the sky, which is a pain to avoid, but eventually he goes down and we pop a trophy. Don't worry though, we're going to immediately head out to the big doors again to be summoned by Henri and help her kill the boss since we murdered her friend Horace. He's about the same the second time and goes down, netting us some souls, and as we load back into our world, we get jump scared by the Silver Knights and rest of the bonfire. Back in the boss arena, we head up these spinny lift things that are still here to go to the room where Guinevere lied before. I miss her so much. She left a ring in her stead and we head back to Firelink. We transpose and hand over the ashes we found to the Handmaiden, then level to level 76 before heading back to the distant manor bonfire from earlier. Down these stairs lies the Irithyll dungeon, my least favorite area in the game by far. After clearing the enemies out of the first room, we are immediately invaded by Alva, who gets rolled, and we find the titular bonfire for the dungeon. This is one of those areas that I get lost in almost immediately because as we round this first corner, there's this jailer enemy type, and right after the guide says to avoid the hollow that tackles you. Guess who did not do that? So I just start aimlessly wandering around collecting stuff until finding my way back up top and somewhat following the guide for the rest of the area. The jailers are annoying in particular because they lower your max HP and also have a move that can just stun lock you until you die. No bueno. Much later on, there's this room with 7 of them and I try to aggro one of them at a time with a firebomb and fail, so they murder me. As we make our way outside, we fight a giant fire gargoyle and then descend the ladder and climb another ladder to find our old friend Laddersmith Gilligan, who gives us a gesture and we light the bonfire here. Before we continue any further, we can infuse each type of infusion on weapons for a trophy, which I thought I was missing some of the stones, but turns out I just hadn't handed Andre over the last coal we found in the previous area. Once I figured that out, we infused the last 2 and pop a trophy before reloading our save we made just before that to save the souls spent. We level up and head back to the profane capital to press forward. Soon after we start, we find ourselves in yet another poison swamp surrounded by these sewer centipede guys with long hair again. As we trek through eating the poison like a baller, we find the curse bite ring and head back to the building to head inside. Here we're confronted by the monstrosities of sin, which are these giant dudes that hit like Shrek, and of course there is more than one here. With them down, we head to the roof of the building where we fight the court sorcerer that was way harder than I expected it to be, constantly smashing me with his warhammer. He drops a scroll for Orbeck and we can drop down onto here for a miracle, and then suddenly we're back inside the Irithyll dungeon. Jesus Christ, I can't escape this place. We end up fighting a giant slave that was there before, but I don't think I mentioned it, and snag a pyromancy after. Wrapping around the area, we find and free Sigward again, who gives us a key, a titanite slab, and a drop rate ring we definitely need. Now we have to make our way back to the godforsaken room with the 7 jailers to find and free Carla, our last spell merchant in the game. We can go back to Firelink to hand her all the scrolls that the other wouldn't take and go back to the capital. In a new area, we get sniped at with fireballs from down under and then find a massive room with a fire gargoyle and a billion other enemies. We slowly try to pull them out, spreading them out as much as possible to take them all down. In this corner, there are 2 mimics that we take down before heading forward into the boss fight with Yorm the Giant. Immediately, we're thrilled to see Sigward here assisting us again, but what's even better is that this fight is technically a gimmick fight. All we have to do here is grab the Stormwheeler sword and get to charging and slicing. Remember the giant manta ray slaying sword from Demon Souls? Yeah, this is that. And y'all are still going to tell me that these games are not connected? Sigward gets his own as well, so this boss just straight up doesn't stand a chance and goes down, popping a trophy. We let Sigward's dialogue play out because we love him, and also apparently it breaks the questline. If you don't, we get teleported back to Emma from the very beginning of the game at the High Wall of Lothric. Homegirl ain't doing so hot and f***ing dies, so we turn around and leave, heading back to Firelink Shrine. After we reinforce our twin blades some more, we head back to the area we were just in to snag Sigward's armor set. Then we head all the way back to the Curse Rot and Greatwood area to reverse summon again and help Cirrus kill her grandpa, which allows her to be summoned for some bosses later. We bully the f*** out of this guy, and he goes down. Now we can go back to where Emma was, where there is now a large bloodstain, so you know what that means, and approach this altar to be thrust into yet another boss fight. This is the Dancer of the Boreal Valley, not to be confused with Vort of the Boreal Valley or the location Irithyll of the Boreal Valley. Where the f*** is the Boreal Valley even anyway? The first phase of this fight is pretty much exactly that, a dance, and you just stay close to the boss and wail on her whenever you have the chance. Bars! Bars. Her half HP gimmick is she goes into Valor form, whipping out a second Keyblade and becomes much faster and more aggressive. Still though, it felt like the openings to attack her were large and long, like my... No, you're better than that, come on.
You're better than that!
She goes down and we pop a trophy, officially unlocking Lothric's castle, but before we head there, we're going to hang a left here, heading into the Consumed King's garden. Our objective, as you may have guessed, is to find and kill the Consumed King. We battle our first Cathedral Knight in a while, which I definitely forgot the timings for, and head inside to find more toxic sludge, oh boy. Walking around this area, there are several pusses of man, or pus of men, or Jesus, I don't know, these f***ing guys. The fights with these things are harder than most boss fights for me because it feels impossible to determine when and where they're going to attack. Once I barely escape with my life after fighting one of them, I read in the guide that it says to throw a firebomb at them first so that they're immobilized, so that's what I do moving forward, which works mostly. The area itself is very short, just chocked full of all your favorite bullshit, including duo greatsword Cathedral Knights. Eventually we head towards the boss despite having no heals and less than half health, but whatever, we'll learn something I'm sure. Our first bout with Orsirios, I don't know how to say that name, doesn't last long, but we put up a decent fight before heading back, this time with a summon to tickle his butthole. There's a point in this fight where bro starts having a temper tantrum about someone being dead, which allows you to just absolutely lay into him. The fight's supposed to get harder after that, but honestly it's just annoying because he keeps moving far away. We take him down, of course, popping a trophy, and we can head back to Firelink. There isn't much to do here besides the standard transpose, reinforce, and levels, so we head back to that bonfire to proceed forward and snag a new gesture that's important later. As we enter the untended graves, we pop a trophy, so this must be an important area. What you will quickly notice, unless you're stupid, emotional, damn it, is that this area is the same as the tutorial area, except just much darker and with harder enemies. I'm certain there's a lore reason for that, but y'all already know I have no idea what that is. We make our way through, killing hollows and 2 giant crystal lizards before reaching the area where the first bonfire of the game once was. Instead of rest, we get invaded, but this idiot falls off a cliff, so we press on. We summon our Swordmaster friend before moving in to fight Champion Gundyr. This fight, despite being advertised as much harder than the first boss, was actually not that bad at all to me. When you remove the big black squiggles, this boss is much more predictable in its attacks and makes this fight pretty generic in my opinion. He goes down and we pop a trophy and also get the item in the game that acts as a permanent homeward bone, which is a huge W. Then we can proceed into what would be Firelink Shrine, except this is in the past or the future or a different dimension or something, I have no idea. There are Black Knights guarding the shrine that we take down and snag some loot before heading inside to grab Andre's hammer and then the Hollow's ashes before teleporting back to the Firelink Shrine that isn't dark and depressing, or at least as dark and depressing. Now we can finally begin our siege on Lothric Castle. Immediately we find some Lothric Knights that hit way harder than earlier in the game. There are 2 that come down from this room over here that absolutely stomp me, making me very nervous for what's to come in this area. We make it past them and take out a bunch of enemies outside, including one of those giant wing knights, and collect stuff along the way. Once we reach the second bonfire of the area, we teleport back to Firelink to finish upgrading our wind blades to +10, popping the Supreme Weapon Reinforcement trophy. As we move forward after the bonfire, we run into another wyvern, so we drop off onto this ledge and find a hollow bone shard, as well as a couple of enemies that would transform into pusses of men, but we stop them before they can. Then there's this other area off to the left here where we have a bunch of enemies and this f***ing guy who pelts us with undead hunter charms, making us unable to heal, and of course we die. After dying to the respawned pus of man right after that, we make it through to fight another one of those super fast ice doggos with no door for him to get stuck on. After sprinting past the wyvern again before he can smoke us, we head inside this building and find his claw sticking through this door frame. When we attack this, it spawns a pus of man squiggly on it, so we light it on fire and kill it, which kills the whole wyvern and also freezes the other one. There's another huge dark room shortly after this with hollows hucking firebombs and a mimic against a wall. We fight another greatsword Lothric Knight and find the Altar of Sunlight, giving us the best gesture in the game before proceeding forward to drop off this ledge and kill the other frozen wyvern. Behind here is the last mimic in the game. There's a somewhat well-known guarantee with the final mimic that if you quit out and reload, you'll get the symbol of avarice, which is a helmet that increases drop rate that we desperately need later. I ended up rechecking most of the spots where mimics could be to make sure I had killed all of them and then just quit out and reloaded forever until eventually it appears for us to snag. Now we can finally head down and summon Aigon and head through to the boss of the area, the Dragon Slayer armor. This is another fight that honestly just wasn't difficult at all for me, at least in this first playthrough, and the other 2 playthroughs, he kicks my ass. More on that later. His attacks are pretty easily readable, and at 60% he goes into Super Saiyan mode with these things called Pilgrim Butterflies that start shooting projectiles at you, but I honestly didn't even notice they were really there. Plus the NPC here kept taking aggro, which was nice. When he falls, we pop a trophy and head back to Firelink. After doing the usual at Firelink, we head back to that boss arena to enter into the Grand Archives. This was yet another of my least favorite areas in the game. Right when we walk inside, we're attacked by the brother of the Crystal Sage and shred half of his health before he teleports away. As we explore the labyrinth of bookshelves, we find a bunch of upgrade items we no longer need, and then find these guys standing in front of this wax pool. Once we murder them, we do as anyone would do and dunk our head into it, which allows us to run through these ghost hands without taking damage. We climb up to the upper floors of the archives to find bro who teleported and finish him off. Other than those two things where we dunk our head in wax and kill the Crystal Sage's brother, nothing interesting at all happens in this area. Although at one point we make it outside and fight across some rooftops and get killed by this greatsword knight, which was ass. Eventually we end up face to face with 3 NPC enemies that want to murder us. I do my best to spread them out and 1v1 them, which they do not want to allow, but we manage to cut through all of them to move on. This area is home to some of the biggest shortcuts in the world, saving tons of time, which was super nice. We fight 3 golden winged knights and snag the hunter's ring, and then end up on the rafters of the archives to collect more stuff before heading out for one of the largest scale fights in the game. There are a billion hollows to take out, all before the 3 Lothric knights come down to help them. Once we finish all the hollows off, we bait 1 Lothric knight at a time to peel off the group and take them down. Then there's this giant lift that takes us all the way back down to the Dragon Slayer armor bonfire before we summon Sirius and head into our next boss fight. This one is actually a twofer, seeing as the first phase we fight just one of the princes, which was insanely easy. After the cutscene transition, the other prince is now riding on the back of the prior prince, and in order to get decent damage on him, we have to kill one prince. This causes the tiny prince to fall down, allowing me and my friend to all over him for a bit until he revives his brother, and we rinse and repeat until they're both dead. This pops a trophy for us, and we can return to Firelink Shrine. Before we head to the penultimate area of the game, we're going to first reinforce our Estus for the last time, popping the ultimate Estus trophy, and also burn our last undead bone shard, popping the ultimate bonfire trophy. Now we head back to the profane capital bonfire and run all the way back through the room with the 7 jailers to find this ridge with a bunch of statues. After using the Path of the Dragon gesture, we're teleported to Archdragon Peak, popping a trophy signifying the start of one of the hardest areas in the game. This area is riddled with man serpent enemies, the same ones from Dark Souls 1, except they do way more damage. Not long into this area, we confront a boss called the Ancient Wyvern. Go figure there would be at least one dragon boss in this game. Luckily for us, this fight is mainly a puzzle fight, with the puzzle being figuring out how to get to his head and make stabbies on it. In order to do that, we run through these buildings and take out more serpent guys along the way and reach this open area where a bunch of them on me, so we reset. Back in that exact same area, I'm not gonna lie, I started to crash out a bit as it felt like these enemies could very easily stun lock me and take away my ability to fight back, and which is one surefire way to piss me the off.
How did they think that was okay to even put it in the game? It sucks! Blame the shit!
Once we eventually reach the other side and drop down on Mr. Wyvern, we one-shot him with the power of youth and pop a trophy. We're teleported in a cutscene to another bonfire where we move into this room and up these stairs to kill this fat lady that spawned in this armored dude that kicks my ass. Barely surviving the encounter, we emote on this altar for a ring and head out into this balcony to get ambushed and once again stun-locked by 2 overzealous manserpents. After bringing the wrath of God to them, we press forward into this hallway where we fight some shielded guys and then get jump-scared by this giant manserpent. We climb up this ladder and find this thunderstone plate ring, which is super helpful, and as we progress into this next area, we kill these 2 stone lizards. Well, one of them just kills themselves.
Oh my god!
And then we're greeted by yet another wyvern. Standing underneath this guy's feet, we just chunk away at his health for a while until he goes down, netting us 36,000 souls and a bunch of useless upgrade materials. Right after, we meet 4 of the stone lizards that absolutely rock my shit. Get it?
Oh my god!
100k souls vanished into thin air along with my sanity. Barely holding it together at this point, we sprint past all the stone lizards to make it inside the next area where we fight this naked dude that's actually Prince Ricard from the first game. Notice how many times they've made references to the first game and very few to the dog tragedy that is Dark Souls 2. We get his rapier and then rest at the next bonfire. As we make our way onto the roof of this building, we find Havel the Rock and engage with him in a gentleman's duel. Despite him hitting pretty hard and being really tough to stagger, he goes down in no time, allowing us to snag his armor set all the way back where we fought the stray demon, which we swap out some pieces for to make us tankier. Trust me, for this next boss fight, we're gonna need it. Before heading there, however, we're gonna summon our old pal Hawkwood and proceed to slaughter every man, woman, and child serpent as we make our way up this path.
I killed them. I killed them all. And not just the men, but the women. And the children, too.
At the very top, we use that same gesture as before to get the Twinkling Dragon Torso Stone. I have no idea what that does, but we got it. Now finally, back by the bonfire, we can pull this lever which makes it rain outside and proceed through this fog door for the most iconic boss fight in the series, the Nameless King, and his trusty steed, the King of the Storm. This fight starts off with us fighting the King of the Storm, who's tough to hit aside from when he does very specific attacks. Since this attempt was more or less a learning opportunity for me, I ended up burning a ton of Estus, but do manage to take down the King of the Storm. Then, behold pure aura. In the third iteration, we have fought of Dragonslayer Ornstein. The Nameless King is The Nameless King is a really tough fight, not necessarily because of the death there as well. The Nameless King is a really tough fight, not necessarily because of the attacks themselves, but more so the delay. There is nothing that feels natural about the timing of most of his attacks, which causes this fight to be much harder than it should be. Couple that with how consistent his attacks are, making it very difficult to heal, and we definitely have a brutal grind ahead of us. The real life stakes that I was facing during this fight made each death even more painful. This was recorded very early in the morning while my wife and daughter were still asleep, and any second they could have walked into the room, and then my wife gives me that look and it's time to be done. During the attempt you're currently witnessing, exactly that happened. My wife came in with my daughter, holding her hands as she giggled and laughed, stumbling over to say good morning to me. Well, she can't talk yet, so it was more just like excited babbling. My wife, bless her, has learned, I think, that when the boss health bar is on the screen to just let whatever is happening happen. I was locked the in, and now my kid is watching. It was now or never. Well, not never, just not until whenever I could find time to play next. That feeling right there, y'all. That feeling is what makes Souls games so special. My heart was racing, my hands were shaking, and I didn't choke in front of my kid. Now she knows I'm the best to ever do it. With the Nameless King down, we can run all the way down here to grab the Dragonslayer set before returning to Firelink to prepare for the longest grind in the history of this channel. The first step of this grind lies back in Lothric Castle, where we need to farm 30 sunlight medals by killing this Lothric Knight and resting over and over and over again. Despite this grind taking a while, I still much preferred this to the sunlight medal grind in Dark Souls 2 because this wasn't hard. Once we have our 30 sunlight medals, we go dump them all at the sunlight altar to get 2 miracles before moving on. Our next stop is those stairs outside Anor Londo that I mentioned earlier for the grind that everyone mentions as being the reason why this platinum is terrible. Surely it couldn't be that bad, right? It's that bad. For several nights, I ran up and down these stairs, killing these 2 silver knights until I would literally fall asleep playing, usually indicated by running off the stairs. That was my indication to call it for the night and start again tomorrow. Those of you that have played this game already know this pain, but if you haven't, I can confidently say that you will underestimate this just like I did. I would have entire play sessions for anywhere between 2 to 4 hours where I would get 5 or less of the Proof of Concord kept items that we're farming for. Do you know how discouraging that is? Not to mention that this is the second of 6 Covenant grinds, and then we have to play the entire game a second and third time.
Find out what happens when I drop a toaster into Adam's bath.
I understand. My eyes have been opened.
I get it.
Forgive me, Souls gods, for I've been blind to the ways of those that came before me and warned me. I didn't even record most of this grind because it was a waste of PC space, but fear not, that timer went the whole time. This is definitely not one of those things where it would look cool to have a shorter time. I want you all to understand so that you can succeed where I failed. Play this game. Don't platinum it. A billion years later, we go turn in these items for a ring and a miracle, and now we can go farm Pale Tongues. For this one, we spawn in at that area where the Dark Wraiths fight the Grooves, and we just kill the 2 Dark Wraiths over and over again. This farm was significantly easier, seeing as we only need 10 of this item, and I already had 2 when we started. We turn these into Rosaria in her bed chambers for a ring, and head off to start grind number 4. Vertebrae Shackles are our item of choice here, so we spawn into the Catacombs of Karthus and wait for Roly-Poly to go by before running down this hallway to kill these 2 tall skeleton dudes. We need 31 of these, 30 for the Covenant and 1 to trade for a gesture. This farm also sucked pretty bad, but thankfully there happened to be a few people doing this farm, so we ended up helping each other by trading off invasions, which sped this up quite a bit. We snag our gesture from the trade back in Firelink and then trade at the Mound Makers for a Pyromancy. On my 5th consecutive day of grinding, we head to the Keep Ruins bonfire to kill these 3 Grues over and over and over again to get 30 Wolf's Blood Swordgrasses. This farm was definitely the easiest of the ones where we had to get 30 just because the run to the bonfire is very short and there are 3 enemies to take down. Once we have all 30, we go give them to the big dead doggo to snag a ring and head back to our final farm. For this, we need 10 human dregs from these deacon enemies just outside this boss arena. The only irritating thing about this farm is that the death animation is pretty long for these guys, which just adds a bit of time. Other than that though, this was not that bad at all. We turn them into this fat guy's corpse, and finally, after nearly 15 hours straight of farming, we can finally move on with our lives. I feel like I'm a different man now, finally understanding how horrible the infamous Covenant farms are in Dark Souls 3. Before we head to the final boss of the game, we're going to mass purchase a bunch of spells now that I'm a bazillionaire. First, we buy a bunch of sorceries from Orbeck, then pyromancies from Cornix, miracles from Irina, and then when we go to purchase the last handful of all 3 from Carla, we pop the trophy for all sorceries. Feels so weird to pop a trophy after so long. We dump all of our remaining souls into some level ups and stick the final Lord's Soul onto this giant throne here to make Fire Mommy walk all ominously towards the center bonfire. After talking to her, we kneel down and are teleported into Firelink Shrine, but this one is super dark like the one before. Upon stepping outside, we're met with a very impressive backdrop and use this bonfire to teleport to another bonfire because gaming and head back to the regular Firelink Shrine to grab a ring off Ludleth's corpse. Now we make the trek up this hill to the final boss, which is the reincarnation of our character from Dark Souls 1 and 2, which is really f***ing cool. This is the Soul of Cinder. He has a wide variety of attacks he can use by swapping between different weapon types, but the one he starts with is relatively easy to dodge. I was honestly surprised at how little trouble I had with this fight, and he goes down, but of course this is a Souls game, there has to be more. His health bar refills as he goes into Super Cinder Lord mode, and now his attacks are much faster and his patterns change. Outside of him catching me and impaling me and slapping me with lightning a few times, I still didn't have much trouble here and managed to take down the Soul of Cinder on my very first try ever. No, that's not cutting to a death, I'm actually just decent at this now. Once we link the bonfire, the ending plays that we skip and pop the link to the first flame trophy, our first of 3 endings. Before we dive into New Game Plus, we're going to go transpose the soul from that boss into a miracle, even though Ludleth is toast now. Then we can rest at the bonfire, and in classic Souls fashion, it's time to do it all over again. New Game Plus is done a bit differently in this game, as we still have almost 30 rings to collect and a handful of spells. The spawns of the rings we need change specific to the new game cycle you're in, which is pretty interesting, and the path to the different endings changes as well. Outside of those 2 things though, this playthrough is a real honest-to-God attempt at a speedrun for me. And speedrun I do. Let's hit the boss montage, shall we? Pause real quick. We get to kill Patches this time around, stupid f***er. After the Abyss Watchers, we can transpose the soul of the Stray Demon for our last pyromancy and pop a trophy. Hooray! Okay, keep rolling the montage. With the last boss down once more, we can summon the Firekeeper to see a different ending that it wouldn't let me skip, and we pop the End of Fire trophy. Alright, once more with feeling. On this third and final playthrough, I really felt like I had a great grasp of where stuff was in this game, and this playthrough only took me about 3.5 hours total, which I was super happy with. Along the way, we have to do a bit of new stuff with Yoel, forcing us to gain ranks of hollowing by dying a bunch, which introduces a new character named Yuria. I don't really understand the story elements of what's happening here, but she is very important for the third ending we need. Most of the game remains the same. During Fair and Keep, we summon the Launder Pale Shade, who gives us the dual bow gesture, popping the Master of Expression trophy for getting all the gestures. Then much later on, we rescue Carla again and give her a tome that Yuria gave us, allowing us to buy the last 3 miracles from her, popping the Master of Miracles trophy. Now as we make our way through the Grand Archives toward the end of the game, we head up to the area where we fought the Golden Wing Knights and into this tiny alcove for our 107th and final ring, popping the Master of Rings trophy. All we have left now is to take on the final boss one last time, except this time we can summon the Launder Pale Shade and Yuria to help us. The Soul of Cinder definitely becomes much tankier with the help we have, but it was still worth it as we take him down and link the bonfire to skip the final ending, popping the Usurpation of Fire trophy, and that is time on the Platinum trophy for Dark Souls 3, which has the same name as the other games, and that's stupid. It took me 41 hours, 33 minutes, and 39 seconds to Platinum Dark Souls 3, finally wrapping up our time with the Souls series. If you enjoyed this video, click the link on the screen to watch me tackle other Souls games or maybe something new that YouTube thinks you'll enjoy, and I'll see you next week.